only 45 seconds off the race lead, so it's not lost that much time. Even with significant damage in the first 10 minutes of the race, Freitas loses a bunch of time out through 17. Slightly wrong-footed on the line as a stricken GR86 then costs him a bit of momentum. Did not cost Dylan DaCosta in that Devotion sim racing machine. So these are the different ways that traffic does interact with everybody. For anyone who's just joining us on the iRacing YouTube channel, welcome along to the Production Car Challenge at the Virginia International Raceway. It has been a madness-filled opening hour or so of this race. We've had a great crew on the RaceSpot YouTube, the iRacing Twitch and Facebook channels joining us for the ride. Let us know where you're watching from and who you're cheering for. One of the few leads that's up for grabs right now, although the MX-5 lead's starting to close to within 5 seconds, so I do think that will be up for debate sooner rather than later. Freitas commits around the outside of turn 1 at the horseshoe, and Dylan DaCosta doesn't fight that one too much, JP.
I mean, at this point, it's still not even at the halfway point. You have a GR86 that's trying to find its way on through a couple of them, in fact. May as well let him go, recognize speed is speed, and go from there, especially when you have Nagy and Benetton trying to find the way to make some battles work here. Right now, DaCosta struggling to be able to keep the grip, though, as that's really split up this GR86 battle because of the Clio.
And again, all 4 of our classes can be relatively close on pace, depending on the weather conditions. The M2 does have a bit more straight line speed, of course, to get it out of trouble. Through the corners, it's relatively equal. Pit lane visit for, is that the team racing machine that's pitted? Yes, it is. And so I think we could be in for some MX-5 pit stops, excuse me. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Word in chat was that GR86's JP can do this race on 1 stop, although they will need to save a bit of their tires. And maybe that is what Olivier Piatek was also thinking about slightly earlier when we talked to him. The fact that he's got to now manage the tires underneath him to get to the end of this race.
It's a great point to think about because that's been something we've seen with the GR86s in general, in dry races even, throughout the year. Thinking back to the Esports Championship for the GR86s, for a lot of the drivers, if they ended up pushing too hard in the first 10, 15 minutes when it was a longer format as an R1 KPG eSportsman pops up, for a lot of the drivers, if you push too far in the short run, you ended up falling off hard at the very end, and it was a struggle to be able to hold on and maintain positions. So it's similar to that with the rain, and with these conditions, remember, there's an easy chance to overheat the tires with a dry racetrack or a drier surface when you're driving rain tires on the circuit. So these tires might absolutely fry, and you might be down to the cords by the time you get to that 2-hour point where this fuel tank can really extend.
We sit on board with Project 91's Renault Clio entry. Remember, the BMW entry with Fraser Smith got involved in an incident about 20-30 minutes ago. In towards the slingshot to the roller coaster once more. Oh, aquaplaning. Fernando does not want to force the issue. That's the reality. He now hits the puddle, loops the car around, but front wheel drive. Can he get himself out of trouble? No, he can't.
It's predictable yet again. Another hit to the puddle, another slide. It's been a constant theme all day long. There's a reason saying karting for those races, you do not want to run in those hydroplane puddles because you just will slide off like ice. And well, we're seeing it for everybody today in the big cars. Oh wow, Pablo Lopez is actually dealing with a bit of pressure. Byte 500 has been on the charge.
Yes, and Pablo just made a mistake, and so Charlie Devlin, even though he is pitted in this race, is back in the lead of the MX-5. That is how much of a struggle it has been for the likes of Pablo Lopez, for Ivan Lenderoso in the Bike 500, the Argentine entry that now pops out of the line. Now, VIR around the outside of the horseshoe. It's a bold place to make a pass, but maybe in these wet conditions, it grips up. Oh, big send from Lenderoso, overcommits into the grass, and the wise veteran that is Pablo Lopez leaves the scene of the incident, holding on to second.
I mean, you've seen the 500 go a little bit deeper the braking mark by about 20 feet. That's what absolutely cost them. Just trying to go that extra little bit on the dig, and now Lopez has a chance to be able to reset, try and find a way to dig. It's going to take a lot of work now to get the Devlin, who has ran away by a couple quarters. You see how far Devlin is.
Issue for Jamie Fluke. They start to pile up, although he's still going to have a 40-second lead, make that 30-second lead to Olivier Piatek, who is in contention to win this race overall in the Toyota GR86. We will keep an eye on that storyline. He is second overall for the time being. And poor Jamie Fluke, down in towards the spiral, gets it wrong early.
And again, wrong way around yet again. Weather conditions strike again. It's been challenging for Fluke all day. He's already been dealing with the rear end damage in the first place here. It's been impacting the car, maybe, just on the punch in towards the headlight. Keep in mind in all of this, you have the Arjuna Kankipati fan club, who is second overall here in the midst of this, and now has a chance to be able to, even with, if there's any more spins like that, put a GR86 as the overall leader. So there's an opportunity here just on raw speed for the 21 to just control things in general, just with how this class in this race format has worked.
Hey, I'm just saying, if my fan club leads this race overall in a Toyota GR86, we'll have to give him some... We'll figure out what we'll give Olivier Piatek for 2026, but he's doing a sterling job. The thing that also did stand out to me when we talked to him, JP, was he was so locked in. He was answering the questions before I finished answering them, because he was that focused on what was happening and trying not to have any incidents.
It takes a lot of mental fortitude with this track to be able to do that, though, because of how this track is formed up with the weather. I know we talk about it a lot, but also you take off that focus, you're just going to go sailing. You're going to go and wreck the race car. You cannot take your eyes off the screen here. You have to stay absolutely locked in, because if you aren't racing 100% here, it's going to be an absolute challenge for you to be fast while making sure you don't snap around.
Yes. And that car looks damage-free, which does not apply to many of our cars across the field. He has got a 50-second lead. So let's look at some of our liveries today, by the way. The joke is, that's the team name for this car, quite literally. What is the joke? There's lots of faces on the car, but JP, I'm struggling to tell who is what.
Yeah, that's my good question here. I was curious on this. I'm not sure who exactly there's. I know there's a person with a horse. There is Joke is racing on the back bumper. There's a couple other faces that have popped up. I'm not sure who these people are. I know someone's going to eventually answer that question, but I kind of think they're just living up to the meme and just trying to put whoever's going to drive on the car to say, this is who's going to be driving today in the most meme-like look.
On one side of the car, you can just about see it on this side. There's a character from Monsters, Inc. That's the only thing that I recognize on this car. Now, someone in chat says, is that a wild Thorin on the side? What is a Thorin? Who is a Thorin? These are great questions that JP and myself, unfortunately, aren't hip enough to the ways of youngsters, I guess, to know. Apparently, it might be a Counter-Strike meme car. That does line up with a lot of things that I know. Dylan DeCoste, a bit of a wiggle there.
I feel very old when you say stuff like that. It might indeed be, but times have really changed, haven't they, in the past, over the course of our broadcasting side of things, with the way memes have gone. For the most part, everyone's been avoiding some slides. The 66, I think at this point, this is the template car that they have for their paint scheme. I've seen the top on the top of the wing.
Yes, no, this is how a lot of painters will try and figure out, well, what part of the template correlates to what part on the car. This is one of those sort of paint schemes. I've just been calling it the patchwork look, although to be fair, if you're colorblind, I wonder what that would look like. It definitely would not be as vibrant as what it would look like to someone who is looking at the full Harlequin look, as someone in our chat quite correctly points it out. Meanwhile, on-track action between FCR Sim Sports and the Lizard's Brain podcast crew. These are two GR86s fighting for 7th between the two of them. FCR, they started all the way back in 18th position, JP.
Always back to be able to have to claw your way through, but it kind of emphasizes just how much the chaos is struck, but also just how much effort it takes to be able to claw your way for an opportunity in these battles. But you mentioned some of the drivers in some of the battles, like Paul Darling here, one of the drivers that races in Grid Light, for example. He's also one of the best drivers with this class of car from the official esports series from this year. Was top 5 in points, was a contender, and actually picked up a win in one of those races as well. So Darling, one of the more respected drivers in the community, because he's known for being a calm, level-headed competitor that will not force things, will keep it pretty calm, and also is one of the nicer guys to be around on the chase.
They've just made their way past the BS Plus Hybrid M2, which is staying out of trouble, albeit technically a lap down on some of these competitors. Andre Castro back behind the wheel of that car after Jaden Conroy struggles. That intense band of rain that I mentioned, well, it might just end up passing to the south of the track. This is the beauty of the iRacing weather system, is that it updates effectively in real time, JP. We have a 30-minute forecast that we can look at. Oh, there goes Simon for a wild ride. Remember, already a lap down. But it does look as though the drivers are going to get lucky and it's going to stay relatively light over the circuit.
Yeah, and I think if it got towards the medium, we'd see absolute pile-ups here as Darling able to zip on by here to be able to make a pass, be able to build up the speed on the inside and take away the preferred groove in the Lizard Brains podcast machine. Don't snap it around, but all able to check up and avoid contact with the FCR car, but that was a bit sketchy. Darling, just showing though, was able to get the overlap, get the power to be able to set up that move in the first place, and is a little bit more comfortable now that he's got the space to work.
Two more drivers have got black flags, by the way, from iRacing, so have hit the 35x incident limit. I think we might end up seeing a swap for second in GR86 sooner rather than later, because Jeremy Fletcher, last couple of laps, has started to really hang the rear end out, although right on cue, Pablo Blader catches him and almost loses it himself. They are tucked up behind one of the Enosis Esports MX-5s. That's Pablo Lopez, who's got plenty of momentum to carry up in towards the roller coaster. Slightly being held up right now is Fletcher as he forces his way to the inside. Later will follow suit. Nice and easy, passes fellow Spaniard. And now down in through Hogpen, through the roller coaster first. Jeremy Fletcher dialed in right now and focused on the task at hand.
That focus so critical, as we touched upon. Let's set things up here with the traffic management. Fletcher in particular, you see it right now. Searching around, trying to find the best opportunity to poke, preferring to take the short distance, but also has to go a half a lane up to avoid where the water buildup is. Now it's the matter of getting the arc. The problem is you see the difference. Project GRS took the middle of the racetrack to avoid where the hydroplane opportunities are. Fletcher drove into it with the left sides, nearly snapped it around. Fletcher is lucky he didn't spin it around right off the start of the lap there on the jump through Horseshoe.
It's a big puddle on the outside of the corner, just keep that in mind. Already gapped Pablo Lopez slightly. So another driver, by the way, picking up a iRacing penalty, and so that's now 4, I believe, all with 35X on the incident counter. As great run up towards the S's from Blader. That is superb, and I don't think Jeremy Fletcher is going to be in a position to challenge this one, and sweeping through, changing positions. Oh, rear end almost steps around as they climb their way up through the S's. But in towards South Bend, it's Project GRS finally in second.
Took a little bit of bullying to be able to get that done, but it all involved a good setup up the drafting section. Nicely done by Pablo to be able to get it done. Now the main thing will be, can he hold back on, because Fletcher's now got himself the drafting opportunity right on back. These cars did get the draft effect adjusted where it's a little bit more nuanced in the GR86. They're still total work. Fletcher getting over aggressive.
Someone in chat says that Pablo's on a controller, but I tell you what, he is showing great dexterity with thumbs and fingers to hold on. Oh, slides the car out of turn 13. Oh, and Jeremy Fletcher's probably saying the name of that corner right now in frustration as he struggles to fight his way back forward. Down through the spiral they go. The track is dry. Momentarily, no rain as Pablo loses the rear end down through the spiral. Pablo Lopez does so as well. Oh, and synchronized spinning as Fletcher regains second spot.
Well, driver see, driver do. When it comes to that section, it's been a constant theme all day long up through spiral. It has caused drivers to have an absolute spiral of a mess every single time. A little bit wider out on the arc in the first place, and Project GRS goes for the loop for Lopez. I don't think he was just joining on the fun. He just so happened to take a little bit too sharply on the line and hit the curb.
It's easy, very easy to make that small mistake. Former race-leading MX-5 machine, Pablo Lopez, is now a full 25 seconds back from Charlie Devlin. We've got some Clio pit stops underway. This is Niels Core, who trickles down in the Satellite Racing doghouse number 64. Interesting that we are still yet to see the M2 machines down to pit lane. As driver change, Niels Core jumped out of that machine. Yeah, we expect that the GR86s are trying to stretch their fuel to get to the 2-hour mark. See if there's other classes which are able to do so, but Charlie Devlin, he pitted about 10 laps ago, JP, and he's already been able to re-establish himself at the front of the MX-5 field.
And being quiet is a good thing with this type of a race, it seems. Because if you're making a presence, you're likely snapping around with said presence. But Scorpio Esports today, a couple entries in a couple different classes, doing well in terms of the focus. Devlin's impressive with how he's been able to drive. He's been able to keep a straight wheel. That's been the most important thing for Devlin. That ability to be able to keep it straight while also, well, I say that and he starts drifting. Every time.
I think drifting is the normal state for many of these cars. The brief period of dry skies is about to get interrupted, by the way, because we've got another rain cell about to hit the circuit. Jeremy Fletcher's just almost lost the rear end of the car coming out through Oak Tree Corner. I can tell you that even if the skies are clear, the track itself is still ever-changing, and boy, is this difficult. They are, as I said, though, going to get lucky. Does not appear to be a heavy band of rain that's about to resurface over the track. Here is Charlie Devlin, who, has already been down pit lane once today, but has being able to use that and push to the best of his abilities. There's a look at the sky above us, JP, and the rain that's once more starting to threaten.
Ever-looming presence as we start to reach a little bit of yellow, but for Charlie Devlin, actually raced with our coverage race spot a little while ago when it came to the Brick Car 24 Hours in Silverstone. Competed, that was amongst the top 3 for Scorpio in their class. Devlin has actually also, in the past week, gotten a test with a BMW trophy car to be able to build his real-world experience working with an instructor over at Brands Hatch. So he's amongst the drivers that's developing to get some real-world experience while also doing well, as you were saying.
Jamie Fluke off the track once again, and I tell you what, Olivier Piatek is within 20 seconds of leading this race overall. There is a very real chance that that is going to happen by the time we reach the halfway mark. Here's another look at it. It is Fluke just scattering himself over the puddles through the S's, and fortunately no tire bundles to hit there. Meanwhile, live pictures, Pablo Bleda is back on the offense, and Jeremy Fletcher, remember, 2025 IMSA MX-5 champion of the real world, is feeling the heat here in the sim. This is what sim racing is all about. And Pablo Bleda is forcing Fletcher to hug that tighter line. No chance of hitting that big puddle this time around. Bleda tries the up and under on the exit of the horseshoe on the run up towards NASCAR Bend, but Fletcher's got the preferred line. This is starting to cost them some time, though, crucially as well, JP. They've got 30 seconds to Cinder's Pyro Pups 4th in GR86.
Yeah, the more time they bleed, the less chance they have to be able to keep moving up the order here. I think for Fletcher, just wants to get this done, wants to get some breathing room here, get this over with, because keep in mind, you have drivers that have laps down like Ethan Johnson also the mixed here. Then you have a little bit while to catch up with the next drivers in class that are laps down, like crikey, it's the Romanian Rozzers. Whatever that reference means. Apparently somebody got the reference in the comments, I know that, for that lap car coming up. But once you start reaching that, it's going to be a challenge. Fletcher nearly got taken to the right there with the bumps. Just about drifted right into the grass again.
Just held on. We are talking fine margins right now. Someone in the iRacing YouTube chat says that the rain is not ideal for Miata drivers, who, of the 4, are the only ones with an open cockpit. That will slightly allow the rain to trickle in, although at speed. I don't know if the rain's what you're going to be too focused on in the cacophony of sensation that racing often is, and the MX-5s in particular. The GR86 is where all the action is, though, for the time being. Fight for 10th between Shabi Nagy and Vil Pennanen on the bottom of your screen. KPG Esports and X-Racer going on the offense down through Hogpen. Meanwhile, as they scatter up on the top of your screen, Jeremy Fletcher sees a BMW M2 off into the grass. It's been that sort of day overall. 58 starters. JP, we are now officially down to around just 45 left running.
I think quite simply, it's just the amount of drivers picking up more and more and more damage as this event's gone on, and as these cars have taken some hits with the stack-ups. Not too many drivers have hit the walls. It is calming down a little bit, per se, in terms of the actual car-to-car contacts, but the spin's still staying active. I think for a lot of drivers, it's just been being able to dial things down and being able to keep on adapting to the situations, especially with some of these wide moments we're seeing some of these drivers really take, where they're trying to handle this track like it's still dry.
So Jaden Ladick into pit lane, second in the BMW M2 class. He'll get the front end hopefully repaired as well. Pascal Costa's got a drive-through penalty for hitting the incident limit. Remember, that Impulse Racing M2 has been through the wars. Not going to be the last drive-through penalty we are talking about either. Up through the S's. Pennanen still sat behind. Not far behind them, by the way, your Clio leaders, with Freitas now a second or so in front of DaCosta, but the two of them, Devotion Sim Racing, Impulse Racing, the 999 and the 12, are very much still the two contenders in that particular class. It was a 53.6 second pit stop for Jaden Laydick, and I can tell you, he has not had the front end on that car replaced, JP. So clearly does not feel like it's costing him too much time, as maybe another wave of M2 pit stops is about to get underway.
I think the thought, though, if you're not going to get the front clip replaced, is you don't want to lose at least 40, 50, 60 seconds here to be able to at least put a clip onto it in terms of being able to fix things up. So it's, for them at least, if they want any chance of a decent finish, they just have to keep going. And right now, that keeping going is being able to keep in front of their twinsies in terms of the damage.
Yeah, they've dropped straight in front of Simon Trendell for Team Chimera. Chimera, one of the stalwarts of sim racing. Seen many a fuel-saving strategy miracle from Team Chimera. Did Simon Trendell see that one coming? Jaden Laydick gets it all sorts of wrong. And Trendell sweeps past, grabs second, but the joke is, Laydick's still out on track.
Laydick's just able to keep the power on going. But the way the strategy is looking here, if this ends up equalizing for this class, is going to be, if it ends up following the same flow, maybe pit stop at the 30 minutes if it's two stop. If it's a lot of the drivers, I think, still attempting at the very least, if you're a GRA6 or the M2, try and get as close to the one stop as possible, even though it's going to be pushing on the limits of the tires. Just trying to keep on going. As you see this battle with the GRA6s build up, see the rooster tails kick up and the shade kicks on up once again for some side-by-side.
It's for 10th position that sees Pennon pop out of line. Remember, there is a puddle there you got to be careful about, although maybe drying up slightly. We're in that brief period of slightly more intense rain. You can see what that's done on the outside of the entry into NASCAR Bend. Would want to be very, very careful there. Almost into the grass on the exit, then goes the KPG number 23, but as the hip and shoulder comes then on the exit of the corner, working out through turn 5 on the entry to the Snake, they continue to barge doors with one another. I mean, they make it work between the two of them. Meanwhile, Jeremy Fletcher's lost second position and Pablo Blader's being able to finally get past. Now, will this be able to last for a little bit longer, JP, or will Fletcher be able to fight his way back forward? That's on the bottom of your screen.
They've been going back and forth for the past 20 minutes or so. I think the answer is, I think they're just that equal, and they keep on trading mistakes back and forth that end up seeing them go on back and forth on the pylon. I think Fletcher has been the more constant, quicker driver. The thing is, Fletcher keeps making mistakes that immediately allow this Ford machine right on by constantly.
You can see the gap to the leader, 62 seconds. Olivier Piatek has been on another level. All that contact, by the way, between that other battle has seen one of them with a drive-through penalty. So that's the danger of fighting so hard. Fletcher right back through on the entry up towards the S's. Almost looks as though one of them's running a downforce configuration, one of them's running a super speedway configuration, but it's all just in the way they're making their speed. It does look as though there's occasions in which Blader just struggles to get a good exit, and maybe, JP, there is truth in this story that he is racing on a PlayStation controller.
I mean, it's possible. I know on the speedway side of things, on the oval side, there were drivers that were known for running with controllers, a couple drivers that were really fast. But you know how difficult it is to drive on a controller in the rain? You're basically fighting with the conditions. You're flicking around like crazy on the joystick. Fletcher way off the track.
Well, I almost wonder if this is helping Pablo, because he's having to drive more conservatively, and staying on the track is helping him out, whereas for Jeremy, probably in the full sim rig, chucking it around is not necessarily working out. It's down through the spiral where things are most treacherous behind them. Raul Hernando goes straight off at turn 16 into the grass, into the wet grass as well. That will slow your momentum. There are multiple people in chat, by the way, confirming that he is on a Dual Shock 5. I don't know if the brand and specific model of controller matters so much, especially on iRacing. However, my goodness, but just the way that the body language of the car is moving around, it is remarkable. Meanwhile, for Jeremy Fletcher, he might benefit from switching to a controller.
I mean, if I used a controller on iRacing, I'd probably spin it out. I require the full direct drive to be able to get the experience, but that's just me. But keep in mind the movements, it's a little bit more slower on the hands when you're on the actual sim, because if you do it quick, you're going to snap around. For Bleda, he's been very much making quick little micro flicks, almost ping on the wheel in the first place on the onboards. Is see with the side-by-side, see those little ping, solid holds on the joystick, ping, keeps going back and forth, not trying to go too fast with the joystick, but it still gives little cues that make a little bit quicker steering wheel motions than Fletcher.
Well, let's just sit on board for a lap or so, because this is remarkable. I mean, I sometimes have told this story, but Max Verstappen, there was the, contact, and great car control to hold on with the controller as well. And I mean, he just avoids running into Fletcher on the entry to the Snake as well. I mean, this is a great display of racecraft and showmanship. And if you ever were wondering if you needed a direct drive wheelbase load cell pedal, no. Do it with a controller that you can buy at a Best Buy. That is for sure. When those news reports went out that Max Verstappen had a sim rig installed on his plane, I mean, that was just a bold-faced lie. But what Max has been known to do is jump in on a controller with his Team Redline teammates, often in MX-5s and stuff. So, you know, maybe Pablo is channeling the inner spirit of Max Verstappen right now, JP, because he is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely. And later, this has been absolutely impressive all throughout this entire run to be able to keep on going here. If he's able to keep this to the very end, I'll be surprised, because he has absolutely had to muscle that joystick.
I mean, the finger strength, that is for sure, that he is displaying. If he's doing the whole race by himself, 4 hours, I mean, that would be crazy. Does he have a teammate? This is the benefit of being in the simulator. He does have Gilles LeBlanc, who is, in his own right, very capable in a GR86, who will take over. And apparently, I hadn't looked at the iRatings before this, but Pablo Bleda's 9,000 iRating on a controller. Again, just goes to show what you can do. I mean, it's just the finest of inputs that he's having to make. Oh, I mean, and when it hits a puddle, JP, the way he saves it as well.
Yeah, this is just incredible. I don't know what else you can really say to this. And even with everything popping up, he's been able to keep bouncing back in this battle for good measure, because Fletcher keeps on those pushes off the racetrack that allows him to keep on popping up, as it looks like Fletcher, black flag just heard from our producer.
Oh, and so he's picked up a little bit too much of the off tracks, the 1Xs, the 2X and 4Xs for car contact. Pablo Bleda is going to be gifted second for the time being. Now, a drive-through penalty is going to cost you about 20 seconds, so still 2 and a bit hours in this race to go. I don't think this battle is done.
There is an opportunity for them to meet again, I think, absolutely. But it's going to take a lot of work for Fletcher in particular. Their second driver, Nick Yanni, of course, family member, great Michael Yanni, to be able to come back and have a chance to claw away all that time again to have a chance at the Ford machine to be able to battle for the podium position.
Let's see if he gets a bit of a better exit out through the snake this time around. Seems to be one of the spots where Fletcher is struggling. Now Fletcher's got 3 laps to serve that penalty, so he's got some time. He does not have to dive in at the first time of asking. He'll continue to hold on. The other car that's got a black flag, by the way, is the Project 91 by iRacing Clio that sits 3rd in class. And so when podium contenders, JP, are getting these penalties, again, it's just another sign of how the situation on track has developed. I distinctly remember when we first had the weather system launch and we had that iRacing Sebring 12, we had rain that likely would have been considered red flag worthy. Now, I'd argue a lot of these drivers would have been hoping for a red flag, but instead they've been forced to deal with the puddles developing through some of the undulation.
Yeah, I remember it was either 100% or 0%. It shows how far we've gone for the rain system and be able to adapt to how weather patterns work on the platform to be able to get that dialed in. And in turn, we've seen a lot of drivers have to learn how you have to be able to drive in the wet weather that didn't really have to think about that before until the past couple years in the first place. And it's really helped those that are, well, very fast. The cream rises to the top, Arjuna, when it comes to weather conditions. The fastest are usually able to excel when it's wet. Those who may struggle a bit are those who lack that adaptability in the long run to be able to make sure they can handle these conditions.
And these GR86s are also having to try and work on a fuel and tire strategy. It's not so much fuel limited, but you want to try and get to the halfway mark and leave your teammate with bit of an easier task to reach the checkered flag if you're going to do this race with 2 drivers. Now, there's the probability that some of these teammates, drivers are doing this without teammates, as Jeremy Fletcher actually will come in on this lap to serve the drive-through. And it's going to release Pablo Bleda to 2nd with now a healthy buffer as well. So Fletcher's going to, at most, you'd think, JP, 4, maybe 5 laps. And then, like you said, it will be over to Nick Jarney to take over and push forward from there. Over to the fight for 2nd, though, in MX-5, where Stefan Schwartz has taken over in the Team Racing Purple number 33. Octavio Rondoletto taken over in the Byte 500 machine. And now the Argentine to the inside, but getting squeezed down Madison Avenue.
A bit of a push through again. We've seen the 500 get bounced around a bit in these battles today on deep lunges. Looks like this time able to keep it smooth on the motions. Been cutting through. Jamie Rondoletto has been able to work with Yokos amongst those for some of the teams we've seen pop up, has competed in some of the major events in the region on the iRacing platform. Rondoletto knows how to drive. That time, though, hit the carbon and just shot him straight.
Almost looked like he made it work, though. I mean, that's what's so interesting about the conditions we're in right now. The drivers have no idea the next lap, when they attack a corner, if it will be the same as it was on the previous lap because of the rain, the changing nature of what we have. And so have to attack and hope you can sometimes hold on when things go wrong. Jamie Fluke leads by 2 minutes and 17 seconds, but he does owe us a pit stop to Jaden Laydick. Now, Laydick will also surely be down to pit lane one more time before the end of this race. It's easy to say that all that Jamie Fluke has to do to win this race is stay out of trouble, but increasingly it is looking like that. The type of trouble that Dylan DaCosta may have just found himself in. The Devotion Sim Racing Clio that for so long has been fighting for the lead in the class, now with the drive-through penalty and with damage as well. Side by side though for 2nd in MX-5. Rondoletto's on the inside as he charges his way up towards the horseshoe. And he's gonna hold on to that spot as he passes some of the lap traffic.
Be able to cut on through with no issue here, as for the most part it's been the challenge for Mike on making sure this car doesn't overbite through. But you're mentioning issues with Devotion. Is he able to snap around? And oh boy, bit of contact because they're still on the racing line, and bumpers go flying from it. That's going to absolutely hurt them in the long run.
And so damage and a drive-through penalty. Effectively, Miguel Freitas is going to be gifted a 46-second lead. I say gifted, it does not credit Freitas with the work that he's had to do to get to the front of the field, and what a job he has done. With just under 10 minutes to go till the top of the hour, we'll reach the halfway mark in the Production Car Challenge at VIR. And what a crazy race it has been. 58 starters. The opening 10 minutes were amongst the wildest 10 minutes I've ever commentated on. And then it's not really settled down much since then. Another issue for Pascal Costa in the Impulse Racing by Tam Livery at BMW. You can see him there. What's happened as... Is that aquaplaning? Is that curb? Is that a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both, potentially, in this circumstance. Both of them, if your last name features Acosta in it, had issues. We mentioned the drive-through for Devotion Sim Racing Jr. They also ran to the back end of a GR86 coming in towards their stop also. So if your last name features Costa in it right now, Arjuna, it's not a fun time for you as another M2 spin.
Well, that's Sheza Esport, and maybe, I'm not sure if you noticed this one, JP, Jaden Laddick's back in pit lane, and I think he had some damage on the front end, and so we'll see if he heads back out there. Charlie Devlin's been mixed up in something as well, our MX-5 leader. Hopefully he's got away with that one scot-free, but my goodness gracious me, it's the type of race that you struggle to pick your way through as Jamie Fluke around the outside. Makes his way past one of our Clios. That's Dylan DaCosta, who's just left pit lane. But our poor producer Hugo Luis has been kept busy today. I think that's to say the least, JP. Here's a look at what happened to the Sheza Esports M2. And then I'm sure the spool just continues from here.
Just drifts onto the grass. The question's going to be, do they blend into traffic? No. Able to get back going, find a pocket, go straight on in towards pit road. Got to get to the speed limit though. Don't think they had too many issues after that point. Was almost thought with the way this race was going, they were going to have an issue with the pit cone, but for the most part, people haven't had issues on pit entry today, outside of one or two cars, maybe an incident before their pit stop.
They had all their problems before that, I think, to be fair. By the time you're entering pit lane, things have already gone way too wrong. Olivier Piatek's losing a whole bunch of time behind Sheza Esports, but to be fair, he's got 80 seconds of gap behind him to second on track, so does not need to force the issue for the time being. As he heads up through the S's once more, 6 minutes shy of hitting the hour, at which point our expectation is pit stops will be cycling through. So see what happens there, and if Piatek becomes one of the first to come in for a single trip. Comment in the Twitch chat was that Jaden Laddick blew his engine up, by the way, so at the very least they've been able to very quickly swap in a brand new engine into that car. The smoke's disappeared, but does not look like they're going anywhere soon.
Wonder if they did a gear shift or just the engine popped after the damage buildup over the course of the race. Curious on that, what happened in that circumstance. This is going to be a good measure of it, isn't it? Remember, not too much protection for the front end, and boom, motor grenades.
Well, so my assumption is when you lose the front clip of the car, you lose the actual radiator as well, potentially. But that doesn't make me understand why the car was able to run for almost 2 full hours without blowing up. So that is an interesting one. But nonetheless, That car sitting in pit lane for about 4 minutes or so. Jaden's still in the session, so he may not be done just yet, so we'll wait and see. He's got some iRating to protect at the end of the day. He's got 10,454 iRating. If he doesn't finish this race, that would not be good. Oh, wild ride there for, is that Raul Hernando once again?
Yeah, this has been an adventure for his Clio all throughout the day today. Just to be able to keep terms with the racetrack, with the way things have shaped up here. At this point, though, you have to figure out, how am I going to be able to make a pass, per se, if I want to make a position? It's nigh impossible. How about Neil Tarnum? No, don't do that.
Thomas Fisher defends in the Satellite Racing Doghouse entry. Louis Hesketh on the hunt. Down out of Hogpen. Good exit for both of them, to be fair, but it's Fisher the one that sweeps out wider and has left a hole. But now is going to get plugged by the Project 91 by Raul Racing machine. So up to fourth once again, after serving a drive-through penalty on the previous lap after coming out of pit lane. And so Thomas Fisher settles back in. You can see the line being run. They're still very cognizant. There's an opportunity to aquaplane into turn one.
Still opportunities to flip on by, absolutely, here. We're almost at the halfway point, by the way. How things have shaped up here. Have to give credit to those who have been able to survive so far, just to be able to keep on digging and be able to avoid any major troubles in some of the cases. We know, for example, Satellite Racing, one of the better teams here, a different look normally from what we see from a satellite car here today. They've been able to dig in this Clio, being able to keep themselves in a solid spot, albeit with every corner of the car at least battered in at one point.
It was announced about a month ago, but ooh, that's a big wiggle just up through the S's, and now contact. Oh, Hesketh gets tangled up with Benjamin Forster, and Thomas Fisher's going to slide past, and or maybe not actually. Hesketh still with plenty of speed on his side as they head over the top of the South Bend, but it was announced about a month ago that these BMW M2s, which we're seeing at the front of this race, will be joining the IMSA VP Racing Sports Car Endurance Challenge, so it will be racing on American soil for the very first time, and at VIR the third weekend of June, so it'll be exciting to see that if you are in the area. Meanwhile, leader in the Clios is down on pit lane. So Miguel Freitas, 2 minutes before the top of the hour, JP. Well, he almost made it the halfway mark, but just about there.
Might have to save a little bit of gas, maybe, Arjuna, though, to even make it to the end if you're some of these Clios who can't make it there, because some of those who were in the comment section said they were within 0.7 gallons in some of their cases and their classes on fuel. Might be a quarter cut coming up for the green and black machine with another slide yet again. And this battle for Hesketh just does not quit, despite the best driver's efforts to be able to separate. The field says no. Chaos must reign supreme.
Another issue, by the way, for Charlie Devlin, who is just going through it, even though he's leading in MX-5s. That's about 4 different bits of contact in the opening 2 hours of the Production Car Challenge at VIR on Super Saturday on the iRacing Esports Network. We start here with this endurance racing thriller, and then later on tonight, join Josh Lee as he leads our coverage of the Chili Bowl, which has become a staple of the iRacing special events. A real fun dirt oval. I say dirt oval, effectively dirt mini oval. Indoors at the Tulsa Expo Center. It is a wild ride with the dirt midgets, as well as Fisher hits the curb on the exit down through Hogpen. Dylan DaCosta, by the way, tangled up in incidents and has been forced to take a tow back to pit lane. This is the contact for Charlie Devlin, though, coming out through the snake. Turned on the side of Pablo Cabrera, and you can see him back up and spin it around. A bit more contact once again, but minimize the damage. Real shame, unfortunately, though, JP, for Devotion Sim Racing Jr., who led this race for so long in the first 2 hours.
And already started with that penalty sequence. They already had a couple contact. Oh my goodness, a violent spot and a Gnosis with a big dodge as a result. A bad spot to get loose because of where that Armco jets out.
Oh my days. Well, he'd already lost the rear clip on the car at that point. Yeah, I was going to ask, can we ride on board here? Because I'm not quite sure if that's half intentional or not.
Yeah, no, he just straight up lost it. And the car ricochets off the tire barrier. See, just lost traction with the crest, trying to hug the inside. That's where some of the puddles have built up there, and it just hydroplaned to the wall.
Man, that was big. Big contact. Well, officially 2 hours complete. Any pit stops from now, if drivers have been able to stay on track without a dive down to pit lane, would surely get them to the end of this race, but maybe also being assisted, JP, by the constant and repetitive influx of weather. And there is a very high possibility we've got a medium to heavy band of rain about 10 minutes away from the track.
Just exactly what the field wants to see, especially if you're amongst those in pure chaos mode like this. The hood goes flying, the tires rip off the car for devotion. It ends what was a solid start, and it ends with a kablamo.
Down to pit lane for Jamie Fluke. He's avoided any big kablamos, but he has been tangled up in single car incidents on a number of occasions. I'm sure he'll be taking this opportunity to wipe the sweat off his brow, grab a quick drink of water, and he is going to head back out into the lead of this race. Although I say lead of race, it might not be the overall lead. It might just be the class lead, because guess what? Olivier Piatek, Jamie Fluke still sitting on pit lane getting final fuel and tires fitted to that car. Piatek officially, JP, is the overall leader of the race.
Well, how about that, to say the very least? We talked about the efforts to be able to get up to the front in the first place. Olivier, I think, has the opportunity here to do the not improbable for a race like this as long as no one snaps around here. Obviously needs to pit soon, but the longer you go, the more you take the pressure off the tires for the end of this race on the GR86 to avoid overheating at the very end of the run. Olivier gonna keep on going here. Some of those already taking service, and Fluke finishing his.
So it's a 66-second stop for Jamie Fluke. Part of me wonders if he may have run to answer the call of nature as well, given that he's doing this race solo back out onto track, and careful not to throw it straight off as well. Meanwhile, DJ Alessandrini has taken over from Paul Darling in that podcast. Another lane right now, just in time, and before we expect that the next band of rain to hit the track and to start making things that a little bit more interesting. All the while, as the seconds tick away, our 58 starters are officially, at this point, down to 43 out there and running. So traffic playing a lot less of a factor than it was, JP, at the start of this race, especially given that around this particular configuration of the Virginia International Raceway, there's a lot more space for the traffic to spread itself around.
In terms of mileage, absolutely. In terms of racetrack width, not too much, but I think for the most part, it's because you have that extra few miles that you can have to work with on the racetrack that you open things up to be able to work around where it's not as compressed and not too much of the braking opportunities to be able to pack up together per se, compared to, say, if you were at a 1.8 mile Lime Rock, or even the full configuration, or even shorter configuration of this racetrack. Allows the opportunity to stretch your legs out. It seems to be the pattern as more of the M2s come in. A couple of the GR86s have entered pit road as well for their windows. So the windows, as you would expect, but does pass the 2-hour mark wide open for the one and only stop, it looks like, for a lot of these classes today with the full tanks. There were no fuel restrictions today.
So Jeremy Fletcher out, Nick Johnny in. Of course, brother of Michael Johnny, Coanda Esports driver, who is meant to be in this race alongside of Thomas Bellarmine, although that car has not had a fun outing, I think it's fair to say. Down in 14th in the GR86 class. Olivier Piatek is still out there, by the way, so his fan club entry leads a lap officially overall. See how much longer he's able to extend this stint out to, but right on cue, here comes the rain once again.
Hey, it's the reverse of Here Comes the Sun. However you can play that song. Don't play it because copyright. But hey, for the most part, for Nick Yanni, he's solid. We know how Michael is with this type of car. For those who followed along with the series, as we're referring to for the Cup, Michael actually won this season's Joyer Gira Cup Esports Championship this season. Nick Yanni had appeared in some of the races there in that campaign, was amongst the top half or so in the point standings for that campaign, was pretty solid in his runs. Remember, the Yanni family does have connections to some of the real world teams with Copeland Motorsports when it comes to GR competition.
That's all as the Johnnies try and continue to forge relationships on their path. Big slide at the rear end as Nick puts the power down. Now, still no driver change and pit stop from Pablo Bleda, but he is likely the next on deck, you would think. And we'll then see his teammates pace. Gilles LeBlanc. The gap between Jeremy Fletcher and Pablo before the pit stop sequence opened up was just growing above 30 seconds or so. So a lot of work for Nick to do if he wants to hunt down second in the class. All the while as that intense band of rain is starting to make its presence known. Anyone thinking the race has become a bit too calm, well, don't worry. You're about to get the chaos that you have hoped and asked for. Our Junior Kanky Party alongside of Justin Prince in the RaceBot TV broadcast booth. Still waiting, though, for, as we mentioned, what would be pit stops for some teams making their only trip down pit lane, JP. Quite remarkable to talk about in a 4-hour race, just pitting one time.
And I think it's just how the fuel consumption can pop up for a lot of these cars here, is just the fuel burn's not too high, but also you add in the extra factor of the rain. That adds less fuel burn to yourself in general because you're turning slower lap times. So it's all built up a combination of really stretching these windows the farthest you may see in a race like this.
Well, as we continue to watch all this action unfold, waiting for those final pit stops, Olivier Piatek has just hit the lane, and so will relinquish the lead back to Jamie Fluke. Pablo Bleda follow him in. Now, have a while to wait because he is about 64 seconds down the road. Up on the jacks goes Piatek. No driver change. Remember, he mentioned that he was planning to do this race with Morgan Burkhardt before Morgan had technical issues this morning. Computer wouldn't turn on, and suddenly Olivier Piatek's gone from doing a 2-hour stint to doing a 4-hour stint.
Changed the game plan a lot of it, but Olivier, I think, has withstood the challenge very well throughout this entire race to be able to keep things up here. Looks like they've already completed the tire service on their car, but a lot of the others here looking to manage pretty well. You have a different driver now behind the wheel of 31. Jamie Nuttall is now trying to make some moves in the Crack D racing machine, looking to find a way to charge.
Yeah, the previous driver of that Crack D machine said that the previous stint was one of the most painful things he's ever had to do in his sim racing journey. So I think it goes to show what these drivers are dealing with. Jink one way then the other. That's not going to help though, as Nuttall goes missing on screen for a moment. Pops back on the outside on the run up to turn 13. Be careful about how deep you commit under the brakes. And the Cracked Racing crew, with a fresh driver maybe helping the charge there, able to work their way forward. So Pablo Bleda, by the way, has stayed out there on track for an extra lap, so continuing to sip the fuel and tires underneath him. Down to the spiral. No fight back offered. Why don't we step aside for another RaceSpot TV fan immersion? And I think it's only fitting, given how little we've actually looked at him on screen, that we ride on board with the number 21, with Olivier Piatek, and see how he's holding on with all his might here on Super Saturday on the iRacing Esports Network. This is the Production Car Challenge at VIR. trials and tribulations of VIR on board with Olivier Piatek in the class-leading GR86. Let's go back, though, to a fight for second in the Renault Clios, Inosis and Project 91. Judah Kankipati alongside of Justin Prince in the RaceSpot TV broadcast booth, and JP. A big gap now up to Miguel Freitas after Devotion Sim Racing found themselves coming unstuck, and it's Project 91 with a chance to slip on through on the rise to roller coaster.
Yeah, but they got the elbows out, a little bit of contact there. Keep in mind, the red machine's been slipping a lot around on the racetrack. Right now, the 15's having a hard time able to hold on to a pattern with some of the puddles yet again here, and it's cost them so much ground here. Now, it's about trying to get a rebound, especially with how we've seen these separations pop up here. We know for a fact, though, that separation for Hesketh not going to last long. Actually getting bump drafted by some of the traffic, it looked like there.
Sometimes that helps you. Got a message about the tire wear on Olivier Piatek's car, if you're wondering. After, what was that, 42 laps or so out on track, his right front tire was down to about 37% on the inside. So starting to get close to that territory of where you risk getting a meatball flag for effectively having punctured the tire. So something for us to keep our eye on. Now that the pit stop cycle has swept through, by the way, Nick Jarney, the gap up to second in the GR86 as it's up to 47 or so seconds.
Big time separation popping up absolutely as a result of the tires. So I have to keep an eye on how things close out here, Arjuna, as this race comes up to its final few moments in a little bit, especially since for a lot of these drivers, it's now the survival to make sure they are able to get the I rating they also desire here and don't get themselves in the negative with how some of the races have gone in these classes.
I rating and maybe safety rating as well to some degree. There's a lot of corners around this track. I believe that I saw Brendan Lichtenberg. Some of you will know Team i5G. He got promoted in a sports car license after doing the race yesterday. He may have done 2 of the races. Right, big time drama, by the way, and 2 bits of it. Gilles LeBlanc, the Project GRS machine, has been tangled up with some contact. More significantly, Jamie Fluke has got a meatball flag, and that means Olivier Piatek, inside of the next 3 laps, will be the overall leader of the race.
Oh boy, and that's going to change things depending on how heavy things are for Jamie Fluke's case then, because Fluke had an outright dominant advantage up at the front. That advantage for the class was 2 minutes and 25 seconds last time by. Yeah, well, that's a good way to do it, isn't it?
Well, Jamie, it's not the first time he's had issues at turn 13, is it? And well, I don't think he can have anyone else to blame except himself for the self-appointed downfall. He just misjudged things. He probably would have been better not even going for the move in the first place. Poor Jamie, I think, you know, his first special event in quite a while in terms of multi-class. We did see him in the GT3 event a couple of months ago, but just unfortunate, JP.
And every single mistake, it feels like a vast majority of them have been in that corner through 13. Quite simply, sending it too deep has been his problem spot, and it's absolutely cost him. And now Impulse Racing, they have a 2-class advantage. So 2 of their classes, they have cars that are going to be up at the front because of that crash.
Wow, so Pascal Costa has been through the wars today, but is about to be in the lead of class, although not in the overall lead of the race. They've already served a drive-through penalty, let's not forget that as well. What an eventful race it has been for them. Now, I guess the question really is, how long is it going to take for Jamie to fix the damage? Because if it's only a couple of minutes, he could get back out there and still be in the lead of the race, or in contention, I should say. I'm on his stream right now. 6 minutes of required repairs.
Sounds about right. Even though it's not cosmetic, it's definitely under the hood when you have a hit like he did. But for some of the others, it's about being able to avoid doing exactly that here. So Fluke out of contention. For some of the Toyotas, like we're seeing here on the setup, it's about being able to dig on the circuit to be able to close up the gap today. We've seen a lot of some of these drivers pick up some penalty points, build up more and more now as we continue on past the final quarter coming up.
Well, you know, as Jamie did message me this morning, he thought this race was next week, so didn't really get much time to practice, unfortunately. We will see if he does. If he does head back out there, he could still get a podium finish. So, stranger things have happened. We've got about 90 minutes left to go. Let's wait and see. We're watching the fight with a bit of a wiggle there for Olivier Piatek, who, or rather for Shashbi Nagy in the identically liveried KBG Esports number 23. In the fight for 9th, not far off Philip Beckervold. These two have been going at it for quite a while.
Yeah, ever since we seen the side-by-side for them about 40 minutes ago, they've stayed pretty close to each other at least. Just mentioning the references to them, it seems as though they seem pretty balanced on speed. Last time by, they were near identical on the stopwatch after all. And over the past few laps or so, just checking on the average pace for them, the average pace for the two of them has been also within about the same second bracket. So they're pretty comparable in speed. This is normally what you would expect in a normal endurance race. Comparable speed, your conversions stay usually close to each other, and that's exactly what's happening here in this case.
An hour and 37 minutes to go. I'm just trying to figure out, is there any actual fighting for our leads to think about? Because there are some different strategies going on as well, right? Impulse Racing are going to owe us a pit stop. I think Team Chimera are actually in the driver's seat right now in the M2 class. In MX-5's, Charlie Devlin just pitted for a second time, so I think he's pretty comfortable to get to the end from here, if maybe requiring a very brief splash and dash, and he's got a big gap as well. I mean, Clio Cup, it's unlikely, I think, that Impulse Racing are going to be pressured by anyone else. Realistically, JP, this is a race where, even if you are inside of the top 5 or the top 10, just getting to the end, showing you're adaptable enough to survive, it'd be something I'd be very happy with heading into the holidays and into 2026.
Yeah, there's a lot of good build-up as a result of a race like this to be able to end with a positive, I think. And I think with 2026, there's so much to look forward to with the platform. We've seen some new content with some of the new racetracks. Every time I start speaking, someone seems to spin, it seems. Nagy this time. The next to bite, the commentator's jinx of speaking.
Yeah, not the first time, not the last time. Alongside now of the Impulse Racing machine, they are fighting technically for overall position as well. 16th overall up for grabs. And Miguel Freitas is able to hold on. Yeah, again, you know, this is one of those unique special events where we don't see all the big teams. We don't have Redline, we don't have Coanda, Apex, etc. You know, we don't have traditional. So we still have a lot of the strong drivers who are representing themselves. But we get a chance to see some new drivers who are maybe contenders to be in next year's iRacing top splits as we work through the iRacing special event calendar. And so it's always nice that we end the year on one of these days. Even more special in many ways, JP.
To be a thrower, of course, with a lot of those drivers leading up on the preparation, a lot of the setup side of things has been built up I think it's going to be uber competitive tonight for the Chili Bowl. Obviously, we won't know who's in that super split until we get to the race in amongst itself. But I can definitely tell you, a lot of the drivers have been able to put in their work in these races to close out the season, to be able to reset before we pick things back up in January for the special event calendar.
Not far away from resetting things either. 3 special events in January. We have the 2 endurance-style events at Daytona, the Raw and the 24 itself. But introduced for the first time in 2025, if I remember correctly, was the special Dale Jr. charity event, and that returns for another year at the Iowa Speedway with mini stock machines. I have no idea what a mini stock is, JP, but I'm sure that sounds like a blast.
You've never seen a mini stock. Well, to simplify things, it's one of the beginner cars you can get into for racing in the stock car scene. So think of a street stock, but a more stock car-like body, more smaller chassis. Usually one of the cars where, I remember one of the first time seeing that was when I was young, around like 10 years old, where you're basically racing on the ovals, and it allows you to develop through the ranks. It's one of the first cars you jump into. It's part of those in the up the ladder movement for those who race in the short track scene.
See, the problem is, JP, you're talking to someone who did the up the ladder thing on iRacing a good 10 years ago or something, when there was no mini stock, it was just the street stock. So I remember that quite distinctly and vividly, but I'm picking up what you're putting down just from the description of what the car even looks like. More stock than stock is I got what you were saying. I picked it up.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, when I first started, and the thing, if you look at how long I've been in the service, technically mine, it was extended by an extra 4 years because I got, it's a birthday gift when I was 13. I did the rookie class when it was the last time they were using the legislation for the switch to a street stock. The driving model was a lot more different at the time. Had to learn, you didn't have to use the brakes per se at some of the racetracks. It was about building up that race and craftsmanship. And for the mini stocks, it's one of those you can put together a strong product with and be able to learn with in real life. And now we get that chance with this year with iRacing.
Heading into the final 90 minutes of the race, Pascal Costa leading in the M2 class, likely down to pit lane the next 10 or so laps, I would assume. 10 laps here doesn't mean 30 minutes though, so it's not quite Nordschleife lap level lengths, but as close to that as you're going to get here in the US, to be fair. This Grand West layout, which is 4.1 miles or so running through the infield, just cuts out a little bit of the back straight from where you turn right and hook onto the infield and then rejoin just before the roller coaster section. One thing that I was in a Discord chat with someone about was the forecast for the race itself maybe wasn't with this much rain, and so the amount of rain that has arrived has been something else, JP, that has surprised them a little bit. And so you were talking about adaptability, but that's where that question really comes in, right? And that's where this weather system introduced by iRacing really has made things a lot more intriguing. Going back to the days when I remember 24-hour races were just ran in one static condition, whether it was day or night. It was definitely a lot less dynamic than what we have now.
Yeah, and I know back in the day, when it comes to the iRacing service, you could straight up build a set to the exact skybox you would get. And I know for a fact that was the case because, well, my background's on the oval side from the early days of the racing side. Had 3 setups usually. 77-degree weather, 82 degrees, let's say, for cloudy, 101, let's say, just random numbers, let's say, just to pick some out of the hat of potential possibilities. There were some moments where I could straight up say to our competitors, there's a cloud about to hit the racetrack in 2 minutes, wait for your qualifying lap, so it drops an extra degree. Now, it's not so much. For a lot of these drivers, they have had some of the weather updated in recent times, especially with the improvement of the water heights, for example, with how the parameters of the dry tracks to adapt for this build. But as a whole, Rain has made it where if you're really into meteorology, you're absolutely loving this. And there's a lot of sim racers who are meteorologists or weather chasers in real life.
Now the tools are the same for everybody, the forecast available, but how you interpret it is all up to your team at the end of the day and the data that you have built out. Behind the Sheza Esports machine, by the way, a couple of MX-5 squabbling. This number 85, the one that did sit on pole position, it's in a fight for 4th position in this time in class. Although they are officially a lap down from both the overall leader of the race and the class leader at this point. A bit more rain maybe incoming inside of the next 15 minutes or so. How heavy it will be is up for question. But at this time, it is very much just settled in. This is the only grouping of class battles that are within even 2 seconds of one another right now. If you're wondering why we're watching Team RSO and Sheza Esports fighting for 4th on track right now. A little bit of damage on the rear end, of course, of one of them. After a drive-through penalty inside of the last 13 laps or so. Jamie Fluke did end up rejoining. He is trying to figure out sometimes confusing. Our graphics don't make it easy. Our timing screens also don't like to make it easy. But I believe, JP, Jamie Fluke is only about a minute back from this battle right now.
He's about in 7th right now at the moment. So he has Project 91 as more spinners in front of him. Got a little bit of issues. So he does still have some times as we look away for a moment and Lambert just loops it around again.
Well, now make that no battles in between any class competitors that are within a couple of seconds of one another. Or by himself as well, JP.
In an area we've seen plenty of them here today. Takes a slide of the grass, adds a little bit more to the incident point count. The rain's getting stronger here, Rain, and you can hear some of it visually we just heard a moment ago. So the weather radar has picked up because we have picked up over the track a little bit of the medium rain intensity. There's the hiss. It's a bit more stronger. This is the strongest it's been today, and there's a chance it gets stronger in about 15-20 minutes.
There were 3 cars with drive-through penalties, by the way, for incident point violations. That did include 3rd in the Clio Cup. And so now Kieran Sharp in the TSRC 24 is within 6 seconds of a podium spot and starting to put the pressure on. All sorts of things happening. Back to the MX-5s where 7th and 8th are within a car length of each other, but this doesn't look like a fight that's long in the tooth. Already pulling out a line goes Crash Bang Wallet team Ronnie Pickering and Harrison Crowther. Past Clay's team relatively simply, and Jamie Fluke, the lap traffic behind, and not pushing his case just yet, and being rather patient as he waits till Madison Avenue to begin to pass down the inside.
Just able to squeeze on by, and that's a tough thing. A couple of drivers have been trying to squeeze a little bit to those on the right side because of where the water is now pooling up yet again towards the middle to left side of the circuit. This makes it all the more nerve-wracking to go side by side in that area. For now, though, we'll say this MX-5 you're seeing looks a little bit happy on the eyeballs here, to say the very least. Trying to go with the little tykes look in the midst of a couple different little tykes we've seen pop up in the field today.
A bit of slide. Poses them back up. Speaking of penalties, by the way, both Nick Johnny and Simon Trendell have just got one. They'll head down to pit lane to serve it together as well. But that means 2nd in M2, 3rd in GR86. Going to both lose about 20 seconds. not close enough to drop them down a position, but again, it just goes to show the conditions that we've been dealing with today, that even those that seemingly, for the most part, have stayed out of trouble are on course for a podium spot, JP. Well, I think that makes all 3 of the podium sitters right now in the M2 class that have served a drive-through today.
That's a lot higher than normal. Let's put it that way. Yet again, normally, said we had a couple per total in a race. When you have that many of your top competitors have it, it kind of just dictates how difficult it is. And I know it said you have to be able to adapt to survive in this. Remember, if you just plop yourself into a forest and you have no equipment around you or anything along those lines, let's say, you have to be able to adapt to your surroundings, figure out how to survive yourself, or you end up falling down the order and, well, things collapse. Speaking of collapses, Fluke again.
Yep, but this time, I was about to say he gets away without any contact, and then, no. Project 91, excuse me, by iRacing, who then, I believe, got a speeding penalty or something, because they also have got a black flag, and Jamie Fluke is back in pit lane with another meatball.
All you can say is you had a great chance to win this race, and it's all collapsed for Jamie Fluke, one of the big names in this race. So at this point, if you're Impulse, it's about survival and making sure you don't have any more troubles from here on out. You're seeing a lot of the air drivers right now just trying to do so the same way that we've seen some of these slides in particular have popped up. We've seen this machine, for example, a couple times. You're looking out, Woodgie is getting up the hillside.
JP, Impulse Racing have got a drive-through penalty now. I mean,
oh my.
Yeah, again, and they've got off the track as well, for good measure. So this is not a race which is over by any means. And again, a lot of people might just be sitting there and wondering, it looks rather clumsy, looks a little bit silly. It is very difficult conditions with the cars they have to be able to hold on. Bike 500 have just picked up a penalty of their own too. So again, we're in that phase of the race where it's really proving difficult, and that's almost a replica of what happened to Fluke.
Yeah, a little bit sloppy on the push through again, but they are still in the lead. That's the bright side. Although, it becomes the question, if there's another incident or anything spark up again, Team Chimera, who's been around for so long, you're talking about years upon years for that team on the platform, as we touched upon. It's been a while since we've seen Team Chimera be the top of the top. These races, this would be absolutely huge, but it would require a collapse and a half again for the 6. Never say never, because we've already seen a collapse from Fluke. Still 1 hour, 21 minutes. Right now, Impulse Racing has to survive and limit avoiding many more incident points. Another 20, and they can absolutely cost themselves to win.
About 5 more minutes without rain before another potentially medium to heavy band re-emerges over the track. And so you can see the slide up through the S's. The real danger is the fact that there's so much pooling of water, the aquaplaning on the various apexes and exits. That's really just leaving these drivers in vulnerable positions. And that's when we talked to Olivier Piatek, he was running some lines that were very, very interesting as we sat on board with him. Team RSO, that car is technically a lap down as they head down back straightaway once again. But as it does appear as though, just about turning into the corner, Pascal Costa's been able to set himself back down into a rhythm. Let's hope it's going to stay like this. JP, I mean, have you ever commentated on a special event quite like this before?
This chaotic of a race? It's a good question. In terms of special events like this, in terms of all the incidents that popped up consistently, it's been a couple years. I'd have to circle back because there's been so many races over the years that I've called, but I know there's a comparison almost to in real life, because got some chances in real-life action this year. At one of the races was Road America, where it was an absolute monsoon and the rain was falling sideways. And at that point, it was so bad that the races actually did have to get red flagged in those sequences where we're constantly looking at the weather radar. It feels exactly like that, where it's like, okay, what's the radar say? Okay, what's the radar say? Hey, Justin, what does the radar say? It's over next to you. Stuff like that, where you're constantly looking and figuring out what those conditions are because of how many cars like this fall off the racetrack in the wet.
This time it's the 10 of Zekarol Esports with Ravzan Logigan at the wheel. Philip Beckervold slips through as the Romanian outfit regathers themselves on track. Yeah, I remember that weekend. I also remember SRO having a particularly hellacious spat of rain when they came here to VIR. Fortunately, when the IMSA WeatherTech GT race came here, it was much drier conditions and I stayed warm down on pit lane, that is for sure. Pascal Costa, he hits the lane, but this is a scheduled stop. So Team Chimera should take the lead of the race. Now, this is not done. An hour and 18 minutes to go. It is going to be a tussle to the end. A, stay on track, and B, to hold up the pace. But my expectation is they should have at least a 15-second advantage. And so Simon Trendell up to the horseshoe. Now first, although third, overall, we have two GR86s in front of him right now.
This, again, is going to be interesting the rest of the way. Remember, Team Chimera, I think, did take some time to be able to make sure they got the front nose back on it. Right now, Chimera, we'll have to see. Their plot and plan have already been down pit road a couple laps ago, believe. So for them, it's going to be curious opportunities here. See where they stand with now a 22-second buffer on the racetrack and what's now turned to a topsy-turvy class. They're being so much in control of Fluke for most of the day today, but we've already seen major mistakes from Trendell several times today where he's gone backwards coming out of corners. Has to be able to make sure he limits mistakes over the course of the next bit as the rain is back.
Crucially though, both of them have had a penalty recently, which means they have somewhat reset the violation clock, if you will, and are back on even footing as that rain initially is arriving as light rain. The more intense band expected in the next couple of moments. Charlie Devlin's had another moment in the MX-5 lead, but you know, he's a driver, JP, we just haven't really seen much or talked much about. But I mean, what a job he has done. Yes, he's been involved in plenty of incidents. Yes, he's had to come down to pit lane a couple of times as well, but he's been committed and dedicated to a strategy, stayed out of trouble at the start of this race, and currently leads his class by a full 1 minute and 47 seconds.
Absolute dominant day as Olivier going for a little bit of a time loss. That's the biggest mistake he makes all day from Biotech. There's not much you can complain about in that sake. But for, you were mentioning for Devlin, you're talking about a driver we talked about with the test, also runs in Scottish Legends, for example. Runs a lot of different races. Devlin has just showcased. Apparently also had the chance to test in real life for the rain in the past couple weeks as well, on top of that additional test last week. That all that real-world experience is helping Devlin survive here today.
I think Pascal Costa lost a bit of time on his own. Just a couple of seconds on his outlap, but maybe just a factor of getting his tires up to temperature and pressure. Someone else in chat pointing out that Hugo's been doing a great job, which yes he has, as have the poor computers behind him struggling to keep up with everything going on. And I have the feeling the next 20 minutes might put them back under some strain, as on board with Matthias Pentel in the iRacing Make Clio a Free Car advertising campaign machine. Starts to see that more intense rain hit the windshield. Off on driver's right. is the paddock area, and now you begin to work your way past the sea of spectators that sit in the infield. This is where it's very much a single file part of the track. It does not feel that wide when you are there in reality. Seeing all the side-by-side chaos out of the Snake, JP, has been quite remarkable today to me.
Yeah, it's not per se in some of the areas you would expect it, but the Snake has seen opportunities go because of the way the hillsides worked up with some of the draft effect, but also just with how some of the drivers have been able to carry their lift points. Some of the drivers have been able to push back a little bit more and try and get faster out. I think that's really helped some of the drivers be able to get the grip together, and that's opened up passing lanes around this racetrack, even up the hillside, where we've seen that side by side. It's just those small differences on comfortability for the throttle points when you're going up the hill.
58 starters officially now down 240 running. 18 retirees so far, with the sky darkening quite dramatically as well. That's an ominous sign, as the heavens may be about to well and truly open on the drivers. Now, I have just seen that the yellow part of the rain has begun to hit from Oak Tree Corner first. That's the side of the track where the rain is approaching from, so it hits the back straightaway and then slowly migrates over towards turn 1 as well. I hope the drivers are all aware of what's about to happen, because this is where they are about to be tested. They've survived about 3 hours or so, JP, but it's only about to get more difficult.
This might be the most difficult stretch of the entire day, because Yellow portion could last for the next little while, at least 15-20 minutes per se, maybe 30 minutes based on the length of the cell. Then there's a small gap, then you have a little bit of yellow currently formed up after that. So for now, it's the best for last, so to speak, if you're the weather conditions. But outside of that, it's about, can you make sure to not slide where it's going to be wet all over the place and not too many dry spots at all now?
No, definitely. The track is going to be coated in a sheen. There's no escaping this reality. The pools of water in certain places are going to become more drastic. It is going to be difficult, to say the very least. And the yellow rain now encompasses the entirety, effectively, of the circuit. Back on board, up towards turn 1 at the horseshoe with Pentola. Through a big puddle on the entry into the corner itself. While he's only fighting the car directly in front of him, there's other traffic that's going to play its part as well. Shabby Nagy feels the need to go aggressive on one, slips past the Toyota GR86 without much difficulty. Now puts him one machine between himself and the chasing Pentola.
Talk about battles still popping up. KPG Esports, even on all the off tracks here today, just been able to keep up their fights all race long, it feels like. Still in the top half of the field, still trying to be able to slip and slide their way on through for opportunities here. You also have your leader in the midst of this. You have Thomas Bellman also up here amongst the overlap on top of Pentola amongst some of the groups here in terms of this. So it's about situational awareness here. If you're Nagy, you have the leader in front. Don't force them into pressure if you end up catching them. You also have Trendell, who needs to gain time on the racetrack, the overall leader, so that your head's going to have to be on a swivel with all these fights through here.
And I can only imagine what it would have been like if we had all 18 of our cars sitting on pit lane out on track, as well as our M2 leader choo-choos his way on through. Simon Trendell trying to fend off the attack from Pascal Costa. 24 seconds down the road now. He's gone deep. So has Olivier Piatek. Not for the first time has the overall leader of the race made a mistake. Again, signs that the rain is getting that little bit more intense.
That focus gets ever more harder to be able to keep now because of it. with there being no dry line per se to search for. Going to have to be absolutely careful here in terms of the focus as the RD Sim Sport machine, you see, already trying to use the competitors in front to open up the lanes a little bit. You see with the tar tracks, they're not planning down as much as they were earlier to be able to open up the dry lines compared to the light rain conditions. As the leader wants to get by, Pentala nearly squeezed him.
Yeah, this is, again, traffic playing its part. Pentala's having trouble as well, just keeping it on the tarmac at times as they slingshot up towards the roller coaster. I think finally Piatek's got alongside. And there's damage on the left front now, JP, I'm pretty sure there.
Yeah, not quite sure. It looks okay-ish. If anything, maybe a little scuff to the seal for Olivier's car. But I don't think that's going to be the major factor. It's if you take a big shot where it crumples up the composite body. That's the major concern when it comes to Olivier for now. But now, you see how the give and take's faring out for some of the others here. Nagy giving a little bit of squeeze, doesn't want to give it the line easily up the road here. Now breaks a bit early to let the leader go.
Does Piatek wind it down in time this time? Yes. But remember, he's made that same mistake on a handful of occasions, and now behind him, the fight between KPG and iRacing make Clio a free car, effectively an RD Sim Sport entry though, with Pentala at the wheel. Back on. Meanwhile, 1 minute 54 seconds, the gap between Piatek and the next fastest car in GR86. Gilles LeBonc's been doing a pretty decent job, you'd have to say. Nick Johnny's been making a mistake here and there, and including the drive-through penalty that JFR Esports have had to serve. There's now a full 90 seconds, JP, between second and third in Toyota class.
And that gap has gone massively throughout the day just with the consistency that we've seen pop up here. But right now, keep in mind, Nick Yanni was amongst those with slowdowns. Speaking of slow-ups, now we have some more drivers go off the grass as one of the little tanks went off. Pentala still is at this point in the shape to be able to square away. We'll have to find out who's going to be able to get on by. Nagy is the one that left front damage is really going to impact them on the straight line speed. Pentala still cannot seem to find a way around here now that they have an MX-5 that's going to be utilized as a pick here for a moment.
Is it going to be a chance? The braking zone into turn 13 is relatively short, especially between the MX-5s and GR86s with the similar braking capability, but they slip through. Nicely judged. As Team RSO have just picked up a meatball flag, so involved in a little bit of contact on this lap that's seen them pick up enough damage that race control is going to force them to return to the pit lane. So could be down to 39 contenders sooner rather than later, heading into the final hour of racing here. Oh, it's down at the NASCAR bend left hook combo. And oh, yeah, he's not only taken the right front into the wall, and that clearly is damaged hard, but he's ripped the bumper off as well.
Yeah, just the water just sent him sailing. It's not that deep of a layer of grass here as more spins up the road from our battles. And oh no! The Arjuna Kankipani fan club has a black flag.
And that was also Simon Trendell off the road, and so that's the M2 leader and GR86 leader getting tangled up. Now, was there contact that led to the black flag itself? No, he's just going to go off the road and get a 1X, and I think that's probably it. But nonetheless, trouble for two leaders.
And that was your overall leader on track. I don't think it's going to hurt for the class lead, though, Arjuna. That's how big the advantage is. But it's going to take away that little bit of extra pride of getting the overall, to say the very least. That's how dominant it is. You can take a full drive-through and still have a massive advantage, which is amazing.
Will still be the Arjuna Kankipani fan club in the lead of this race, by the way. It brings me great joy to say that. I will be honest. I felt a bit uncomfortable at the start of this race with my own fan club in this race, but boy, if they're going to win the race, I'm okay with that. Again, it's just been a race defined by consistency, and sometimes I think, JP, track limits in sim racing, a lot of people judge them differently than they do in the real world. Because in the real world, you get told a lot of the time, go off the track 3 times, you're getting a penalty. In the sim, we combine off tracks and incidents, car-to-car incidents together with the incident point system, and so a lot of drivers look at 35X and say, right, I have 35 opportunities in which I can gain time by running off the track before I get penalized. How can I use that to my advantage? And so that's also something that's slightly different, I feel, with how these drive-through penalties are being paid out through this race.
And I've heard people say that too in races where I have some X's to burn. I can utilize a little bit more of an opportunity to push now compared to before where I have to be careful. It does come up in the mind of drivers. In this race, it's a little bit more challenging to be able to do that, but it is absolutely something we've seen. Pascal Costa, by the way, speaking of which, he just used up some more extras, by the way. He just sped off the racetrack. But for competitors, it does pop up. But my concern is, it takes away when you do stuff like this.
Piatek, by the way, at turn 13, almost again, identical issue. So he is really struggling to judge the changing nature of the track, and the way the wind has fallen, it's pushed a lot of the heavy part of the rain either side of the track, and so we're actually, JP, about to get back to a period of no rain for a little bit. So 62 minutes to go. I mean, if there are any meteorologists in the audience amongst us, Racebot may be looking to hire your services so we can understand this weather phenomenon a little bit better.
My question is, did Hugo approve that in the budget?
No, not yet, but he's just heard about it for the first time.
I think you're forcing his hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just remember, I've done weather forecasts before on Racebot TV, so it'll come out of that budget, Hugo, don't worry.
All this as well, at this point, I will say, Petrol still kept things close in one of the close battles on a racetrack. Still finding chances to be able to prove that the Clio can be a free car. I'm surprised, though, one thing. If you want to try and advertise for the Clio, why not race in a Clio?
That's a good point. Because I guess he's refusing to pay the piper, quite literally. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Matthias Pensler has probably raced the Clio before. So, you know, there's no excuse for him, as he looks one way than the other on KPG Esports. Of course, the Clio and the TCR are effectively the only two front-wheel drive significant cars that we really have nowadays. So, there's a little bit of a touring car ladder, but the likes of Matthias Pensler, Miguel Freitas, you know, this is what they love. They love the front-wheel drive racing for the most part. And so that's what they are arguing for. As not the easiest of entries and quite shallow, it led to an uncertain moment from the KPG 23 and up now through the South Bend, catching a bit more of that traffic. Pensler with a great chance to slingshot off the corner.
See, I'm just trying to think about a potential setup opportunity, because with some of the off tracks for the 10 machine, it's a 3-car battle instead of 2. Keep in mind, the Carlo machine has also picked up a lot of front end damage. They're going to be a bit more impacted down the straightaways and be like a parachute to set up this double toe for Pentola.
You can see how aggressive Naji's been on the brakes, covering the inside line. And will hold the position. Not going to really get the up and under as the traffic tries to stay out of the way as well. Oh, it's a bit of a squeeze down to the spiral. One gets through, the other gets through as well. Nope, never mind. Slips between the two of them does the Zekril Esports number 10. That's Razvan Logigan just trying to stay out of the way. I have an update on Olivier Piatek, by the way, JP. He was trying to tell his family to bring him water. The reason why it happened 3 laps in a row was because he was trying to text his parents. The reason I know this, because he texted me this explanation as well.
It's important to mention, though, we do not support texting and driving. I will say, in real life is one thing. In the sim, it's absolutely daunting because I've gone to where I look at something on our screen before, Arjuna, and it usually leads to trouble. So, obviously, for Olivier, very lucky it didn't lead to significant off tracks in that case for the 21.
Yeah, I mean, it happened 3 laps in a row, right? So, yeah, the impact could have been a lot worse. Now, that could have been a lot worse with Pentula. Now, Zekkerl Esports are down to serve their penalty. I don't think they were trying to do anything untowards there. It was just a little concerning as to how close this overlap in speed was. And yes, I agree with your point. Do not text and drive. I would not even recommend it while sim racing. I will be completely honest. Rob Malechka, Phil Kraus, those are drivers that JP and myself have commentated on many an iRacing IndyCar race. They have this ability to sit there on ovals and type while racing at 220 miles an hour. Still don't understand it, JP. They're teammates of mine, and I still don't understand it.
Yeah, for me at least, if I'm looking, the funniest distracted moment, one is when I first did VR, where I was at Phoenix going on pace laps, and I ended up getting distracted where I can't see through the lens, so I put down the lens for a second of VR, try and scrub off, the eyeball lenses.
Oh no.
You can see where this is happening.
Oh no!
As that's an even bigger oh no. Nagy just destroyed the car.
Oh, well, we were talking earlier about how there's just grass and then tire bundles, and boy, that GR86 has found one! Oh, behind as well. I think that's Cedric Gibrat who's just looped it, coming up through the S's, 3rd in the Clio Cups. That's a hellacious bit of contact as well, and just keep looking. Yes, there goes the Clio.
Look at that drift in the first place, down the hillside. Massive slide on through. They're lucky they didn't slam into a tire barrier with how big the drift was there, but again, you have to be able to keep your focus, and no distracted driving can help you in this type of situation.
Yeah, you were talking about VR. That was a conversation topic that we had last week on RaceSpot TV during our coverage of the PRI Hoosier 500. It's not VR is not something that you'll often see amongst esports drivers who race in eNASCAR and things like the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Sometimes you do see it in dirt oval, rallycross, those sort of shorter sort of races where the ability to look around is a bit more important. And also in the IndyCar scene, whereas, oh, there goes Zekkerl looping it around down at the spiral once more just after serving a drive-through penalty. But yeah, in the IndyCar, for some reason, JP, there is a small subset of that community that really loves the ability to just have in VR better situational awareness. I can't imagine what VR in a race like this would be like, especially if you're doing all 4 hours by yourself.
Well, the point of the story I was trying to get to was, for those curious on how that ended, where taking out VR because there was something off screen and telling the field, hey, can you tell me where to go? It ended up with slamming the wall, to say the very least. I was about to say, with VR, it makes it easier, at least to me, when you aren't getting distracted by anything over your shoulder, is it helps you tune things out. Yeah, it's different in the visuals, where I know people like triples because of the visual quality and the fidelity that might pop up there, but for some, that ability to look around as you're driving around comparative to your height can absolutely be able to be assistance. It's really down to preference.
We will step aside for another RaceBot TV fan immersion. I tell you what, the budget has been approved by our producer Hugo, and we are now officially looking for weather reporters. I tell you what, that looks like an average day at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, to be honest. So 100% chance of chaos. Sign us up, and looking forward to a lot more fun with this weather system in 2026. Let's jump on board with Project GRS. Now, Gilles LeBlanc is not racing on a controller. He is racing on a wheel and pedals. But his teammate did such a great job displaying what you can do with a Dual Shock or Dual Sense 5. Let's see what Gilles LeBlanc can do. Second on track, both in class and overall, here in the iRacing Production Car Challenge at VIR. And a welcome back along to Super Saturday on the iRacing Esports Network, the final day of broadcast for this special event, starting here with the Production Car Challenge at ViR. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Justin Prince, enjoying the sound of the Toyota GR86 rumbling around America's Motorsports Resort, well, as the action continues to rumble on. JP, let's jump back towards the MX-5s, where former race leader Pablo Lopez under pressure as Joel Hull and the Crash Bang Wallop Team I, number 89, is hunting him down.
And Hull, once those in those little tanks have been able to drift around, trying to make sure not to puncture a hole to the front end. As you can see with all the pictures built up, Lopez though, again, hitting one of the puddles there that's built up on the left side of the racetrack, causing a drifty drift and another position swap. As a result, as Lopez's race continues, to him fade more and more and more down this leaderboard because of the way this track has transitioned.
And Pablo's someone who is very delighted about one of the new pieces of content that's just come to iRacing, the FIA Cross Car, which Pablo actually owned one of those. Did some racing in Spain and eventually sold the car. Very much did enjoy his experience there. Pablo's also someone with lots of experience in the MX-5, going all the way back to 2016 when he was named on the Mazda Road to 24 shootout roster. Oh goodness, Thomas, no. Thomas Bellman hits the wall hard, and that is going nowhere anytime soon.
Bellman, who one of the drivers has done very well, is actually one of the top competitors when it comes to GR Cup Esports. Is your second in that Esports Championship. It's a disastrous day, teamed up with the champion for that series this season. But to get back to your point, Lopez with that experience has definitely been very helpful here, to say the very least, on the sim. And we've seen a lot of people who have moved up that started racing in the MX-5s, the virtual world, that got a chance to race in the real world. Elvis Rankin is one of the names, for example, that have come up to the real world ranks and appeared in some of the races there just because of some of the experience starting in MX-5. It allows you to be able to develop your racecraft against some of the best with the way the package allows you to battle.
Jeremy Fletcher, we saw him earlier in that JFR number 17, currently piloted by Nick Johnny. He is the 2025 global MX-5 champion in the real world, although plenty of drivers, Olivier Piatek included, do a lot of iRacing and also Spec Miata, which is that level underneath of the MX-5 itself. A little bit more cost effective. Although, of course, like any racing series, you hear stories about all sorts of fun and games that competitors play to try and make sure they have got the fastest car on the grid every single week. Back to that fight between Crash Bang Wallop and Enosis. This all unfolding, by the way, in another lull in the rain. Expecting a light to medium cloud cell to emerge inside of the next 5 minutes, JP. So once more, these drivers continue just to be challenged by the unknown.
Yeah, and obviously we can talk about how, oh, you can keep an eye on it easily. They did it recently, I believe, on the iRacing update side, allowed that ability with the F-Box to keep an eye on the radar. That was a screen fix with F11 specifically. That was allowed as a standalone widget. So you can stare at the radar, but you have to make sure you actually get that set up in the first place to make sure you're ready to go for that. So that adds also to the air factor of, do you want to take away your eyes off the racetrack to look at the radar every 5 minutes? It's really up to you as a driver if you want that information as you drive, or you go as you may with those conditions here.
And for those who will watch all of this madness and then still sign up for the last time slot of the Production Car Challenge at ViR, to those about to rock, we salute you. Best of luck if you are going to be participating in that final of the time slots available for this special event. And as we've already mentioned, there's one final special event, although you can't necessarily, I think, participate in it unless you've already done so earlier in the week. We have got the iRacing Chili Bowl Nationals coming up. And I think it is 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, a traditional super session slot. Joshua Lee to lead the coverage here on the RaceBot TV team, as up towards the left hook, this fight for 4th position continues. Now, they're getting somewhat held up by the 2 cars in front of them, and Clio and the GR86, the strengths coming in different parts of the track, JP. It's just meaning that the MX-5 not really able to do too much right now.
It just kind of stuck in this train, so to speak, that almost boxed in, because right now the MX-5 seem to be a little bit quicker now that they've got the pull of the draft, and it looks like finally getting some give and take here for the GR86. The Carl Eastworks machine not fighting too hard here. No, they have a battle going on in their hands, and that's the respect we've seen from a lot of members today, where you don't necessarily have to just say, "Olé, go right on ahead," but when you recognize speed, you let them on go. Do you really risk fighting, and destroying their opportunities to race by battling them out time in and time out?
No one's ever said that behind the helmet sits a driver clear of adrenaline and sound of mind, but as deep into the corner that Clio, Cedric Gibrat, who remember is running up in 3rd in the Clio Cup class, finally releases these MX-5s, and I suspect that Joel Hull, down into the spiral, is starting to spiral into a lack of patience right now. Look how close he gets as he clambers over the inside curve. Now, down out of turn 16. Short blast in towards the chicane that greets you next. He's going to have to wait and set this one back up. Maybe a run up towards the roller coaster, a good exit through here can give you a chance, or then your next opportunity up towards turn number 1, and Pablo Lopez, the rear end, steps out slightly on him, but a good handful of momentum carried up towards that crucial corner.
Got to build up a separation as we're zoned up the hillside once again, but still slight differences. Hold, trying to almost stay away from the outside, try and set up a diamond line as they work their way now towards through roller coaster section of the racetrack here. Doesn't really work though, because there's more of those puddles to the left. Hall's trying to take these angles a little bit more on the curbing compared to the 25 Lopez, who's trying to take this a little bit more straight shot. The difference is, we've noticed, you can't get a good launch if you take that curb exit just right to power your way out of Hog Pen.
So Charlie Devlin into pit lane for what should be his final pit stop in the MX-5 lead. Still holds on even with the trip up and out of pit lane. Project GRS, Gilles LeBlanc, has been disconnected, and oh, that's heartbreaking. That's robbed them of 2nd, and it might rob them of 3rd as well, unless they are able to get a driver in time. It's going to promote Cinder's Pyro Pups into a podium spot, with Lizard's Brain Podcast and Cracked Eat Racing not too far behind. So, final 40 minutes of racing. It is not settled for the podium spots by any means in Toyota GR86. I say not settled. I think one position is settled, JP. That's the fact that Olivier Piatek, still leading overall, has now put a full lap on every single car in this field.
I mean, your fan club has the best members, doesn't it?
Oh, it's a good feeling.
What are some of the benefits so everyone can join your fan club and be just as fast as Olivier?
Oh, you know, if you join the Arjuna fan club, you get secret setups, the griphacks.exe. What else? What else makes you fast? The RaceBot stickers that add 50 horsepower to your engine as well, JP. That's all part of the collection. Oh goodness. No, Olivier. You just had to. I just had to throw down the curse of the commentator. Oh, and that could be bad. That is a lot of cutting the course right there.
You know what also is part of the fan club? The Thanks Arjuna sticker. And I think that Thanks Arjuna sticker is going to be all over the mind of Olivier after that one.
Yes, the hashtag blame Arjuna that we will get printed out at this point so we can throw it down on occasions. is it me? Or has it got ominously dark once again?
You're not wrong whatsoever, because you talked about the radar situation. I mean, let's keep the swivel on. It's popped up yet again. This has usually been when medium has come about, and I think that's exactly what's been the case. By the way, Thomas Bellman has had a crash in pit road where the car has gone into the air and has gone to his side in pit box. So Thomas Bellman's experience has come to a close, I think.
Well, his study's not far away from the Virginia International Raceway, so he's intimately familiar now, I guess, with the surroundings, including down on pit lane. That is a great look of the opening sector at the run through NASCAR bend in toward the left hook. I mean, just look at the sheen on the track itself coming out through the snake. I mean, it is clear just how apparent this rain has been. I'd be very curious, JP, if the other splits within this very same time slot have had a similar experience, because that's one of the things that we've seen in the past, that even in the same time slot, drivers have no guarantee of weather being the same.
Yeah, with the way the weather's been adapted and adjusted as of late, that is a great point. Because before it was everybody has the same conditions, same playing field, but as we know, weather can change into a million different possibilities. So that is a huge question that is going to impact things for later on, and will it cause that for a lot of these drivers to change how they approach races in the future here on what to expect, and make sure you have a rain set on the banker and a dry set to make sure you have something that's got the speed for either condition.
39 cars left on track, although I think now make it 38 with Project 91's M2 back in pit lane with yet another meatball. Miguel Freitas in front of this MX-5 battle. That is our Clio Cup leader, let's not forget. He has got a 2.5 minute gap to Kieran Sharp in the TSRC machine. That's almost full lap as well, so in a very comfortable spot. Now, not so comfortable is Team Chimera, now only 9 seconds clear of Pascal Costa. And so, as black flag has just come through for the NGC by Rubis Gas BMW that sat third in class, so that's going to drop them back out of contention a little bit further. I think that M2 lead is going to be up for debate inside of the next couple of laps, JP. Last lap alone, Trendell lost 5 seconds sitting behind in some traffic.
Yeah, that's how much some of this traffic slow up has come on to be. And I think when you have a class advantage like some of these drivers, you can't force it. But for now, it's about where will things shape up again. A little bit of a wiggle, Lopez. And this opens up the door for another opportunity to pass yet again. More dives up the inside. Lopez just says, "Ole, take it. I don't have the momentum here."
And maybe don't think it's worth fighting too much more. Still time for this to swap back around. This band of rain, by the way, does look like it's trending to stay on top of the track for quite a while. It's going to vary in intensity, starting somewhat heavy, lightening up before maybe heavying again inside of the next 25 minutes, and that could set up a blockbuster showcase to the end if there are still any battles out on track as the track continues to dry and drivers try and push the limit and find that extra little bit of grip. A little bit high and wide out of the roller coaster. A car's width left, but Lopez not plugging that hole. And Joel Hull now solidly holding on to that 4th position as they try and close up to those in front. There's a whole nother flurry of black flags that have just come through, and so that's obviously what these drivers are thinking about, JP. If any of our podium contenders rack up these penalties, these drivers still in with a shout.
Especially since, keep in mind, the M2 still has just a 7-second difference. So any penalty for either one of those drivers, the 86 or the 6, separate things out, intensified for that gap. For some of these hard position battles, It's going to be, will you be able to pressurize your competitor into a mistake to be able to get that spot secured up here? Keep in mind, in this fight though on screen, more traffic. Yeah, Freitas being careful here. Freitas almost ran into by Hole. He's carrying so much momentum because Shannon Morris is parking the bus in the Clay's team smiley face car.
There are other fights through the field as drivers still trying to finish.
That was a squeeze there, Arjuna, because Lopez was in the grass from that push-off.
But keep your foot in it. Didn't lose too much momentum. Oh, not the best of lines on either side as they sit somewhat blindsided. And the tire tracks of that bright blue MX-5 sweep out of the south bend of the track once more, pulling some gap to Miguel Freitas. One gets through, both get through. That's crucial as they pass Shannon Morris.
And they have a lap advantage. Drivers from a lap ahead of them, I should say. Gorchov also going to want to power the way on through here too. And Gorchov, remember, the past while or so has been on the road. But a quiet day as of late for the 33, but we know with them, top 3 in class, looking to try and maybe stay out of this fight, wait until it calms down to be able to then go through.
GTRS, the racing spirit, in 3rd in Clio Cup, also find themselves with that penalty. Ooh, here comes Pablo Lopez. Thought about returning the move from a couple of laps ago. Not quite alongside. Meanwhile, Impulse Racing have taken over the lead from Team Chimera.
And that was a massive swing possible. Oh, hold on. Impulse is the wrong way around right this moment. Team Chimera just took it right back just now at the pylon as Lopez goes off the track as well. Everybody's starting to go off sequence here and off circuit. Chaos abound all over the place as Team Chimera, right after they get the advantage, lose it.
Chopping and changing. That's the nature of this race. Hoping there's not too much damage. First, let's look at what happened to set things off for Team RSO. So they actually come in after the fact and end up sliding quite considerably off the circuit, fortunately. Suddenly, Team Chimera back in the lead with 30 minutes left to go. Well, like I said, we were going to be in for a wild end to the day. Certainly looking like that. Meanwhile, behind Simon Trendell, Paceworks Esports, and The Simone, 3 laps down. Remember, at one point, former race leaders.
Yeah, and remember, had the meatball flag in the first place from all the incident piled up there. But still have a chance for a decent end to the day here despite everything. Still have a chance depending on how things go for at least the top 10. We'll see.
Let's grab another chat with one of our many drivers, although this one officially now out of the car. It's the Frenchman, Thomas Bellman, who joins us now. Thomas, I know it wasn't the easiest day for you. I think it all started from the chaotic race start, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, some things kind of happened at the beginning. I thought I was on slicks when I came out of the pits and had to repit, unfortunately, and because of that, well, couldn't get a lap in, so that didn't start off on the right foot. And then, yeah, I thought I was making my way through, honestly, through the first lap, and then kind of misjudged the spinning car in front of me and just got collected. And that was kind of where it ended at the beginning.
So I've got to ask you as well. We talked about you racing GR Cup Esports this year. I didn't mention that you've done some Spec Miata racing, I think mostly in California, but you've been studying at Virginia Tech University. Have you ever driven at VIR in the real world?
Yes, actually I have. Yeah, I got to do a testing one day in some downforce car at VIR. I got invited to do it, and no, it's a really cool track. You know, the S's IRL with the forces from the G's that you pull through there are really extraordinary, and you don't really necessarily feel it in the sim. So it's a really cool track to go to, and the roller coaster section when you're gripping up and going through the last corner at Hogpen is insanely fun. So, you know, I got to race there once, and, you know, I'd love to do it again, honestly.
well, and in comparison, how much fun were you having today with the rain, the conditions, and everything you were having to deal with?
You know, I wasn't too sure if I was going to keep going after the lap one, but, you know, everything happens in lap one, so I was like, maybe I could try to make a comeback. And honestly, I was doing pretty well coming back from 18th all the way to 12th, and, you know, the mix of rain conditions kind of, like, played out in my favor. It was trying to judge when to, like, be smoother, when to place the car in different places, and, you know, it was really fun. I had a lot of good time slidings, a couple of spins here and there, and unfortunately I got collected at the S section, just aquaplane into the wall, and that was kind of my day over there.
Before we let you go, you were in a voice chat with Olivier Piatek just before you came to talk to us. How's he doing? How's his mindset right now? Because there's a couple of mistakes in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, no, I think he felt the pressure when I got to him. You know, obviously he saw the faster driver get to him when I started getting to him into the Grand Course. So he felt my pressure and he started making a few mistakes. But I told him to, you know, kind of calm down. Unfortunately, his teammate couldn't be here today, so he had to pull it off all together by himself. So he's really feeling it right now. But I think he's going to come home with a solid win today.
I mean, just 30 more minutes. Thanks for coming to chat with us, Thomas, and best of luck in hopefully another iRacing special event sometime soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
I think you can tell, JP, 3.5 hours. I'd be feeling it as well. Olivier Piatek starting to be a bit fatigued at the front of the pack.
It's a little bit here with how long this race has gone doing the solo. A few competitors have done that, like Trendell, like Costa today, Pascal Costa specifically. So for those drivers, they've definitely had to work hard in terms of their efforts here to be able to get the car to where it's at with all the condition changes here. You have to commend them for all their efforts to be able to survive throughout this one. And keep in mind, it's to the point where you even see drivers disappear for the car. Remember, Conrad towed it at one point for Venus Hybrid. They still have a fourth in class despite that tow a long time ago, and Conrad's even back in their car.
That's wild. Again, just goes to show what a race it has been. Another slightly more intense patch of rain over the track once more. And the changing nature of the forecast, this is something that wasn't predicted until about 2 minutes ago. So the drivers, if any of them were keeping an eye on the radar, hopefully have adjusted for the change. Just looking up and down through the field, and I am pretty sure, JP, that all but a handful in this race have gotten a black flag from the incident points, which again goes back to the question of, with short time remaining, who's still got limited incident points left at their disposal with heavy rain on the forecast. And I say heavy rain, oh, there's a big cell about 20 minutes away.
And that concern, if you're hitting the big cell is going to be, that would be medium rain at least. So again, hard impact on the racetrack to close out the race. Going to be a lot more drivers sliding at the very end, but to get to that point, I think right now it's just get to the end, keep it clean. You have less than 10 estimated laps to go in the race, Arjuna. It's going to go by quick with about 3 minutes or so per lap. So you just have to make sure, even if you have the big buffers, dial it back. The only group that cannot afford to dial it back is the BMW M2s because of how small that deficit is.
And speaking of, Pascal Costa is within 9/10 of Simon Trendell. So we could be about to see the lead change hands. How defensive is Trendell going to be? Look at how patchy it is through various points on the track. Through the S's over the top of the entry into the South Bend. Pascal Costa now within a couple of car lengths. Here they go. Behind ViR Simon, who's made his way past. How quickly does Costa find a way forward? He was 2.5 seconds faster on the last lap. In towards the S's. Simon's not going to pull out of the way here. And indeed holds Trendell at bay for the time being. Might be up in towards turn 13. Oh, big bump over the curb though. Costa just holds on.
Oh, and now there's the snap. Trendell in the grass.
Oh, and now off to Narnia, as you called it earlier, JP.
Yeah, clipped a little bit too much curving to the right side. A little suspension compression snapped it. And Trendell just had to try and hold on. You can tell, though, the weaknesses were building up. 11, 12 seconds back.
Yeah, that small mistake has grown a big gap at this point. 25 minutes to go. It's now just stay on track. Target for all remaining. For some drivers as well, you know, there's not many races which you can do on iRacing that are this mentally fatiguing, JP, with the track being so technical in nature, traffic being such a frequent factor and a frustrating factor at that too. The only other race which you can do solo of this length is the Nürburgring endurance races, which, you know, those are 4 hours as well, yes, but very different cars. And to be fair, because the track is also so much bigger, traffic is a lot less of a factor. So this is such a unique special event that really so many drivers heading into the unknown.
Exactly, and for some, it's about that practice time coming into the week. Has to be a major benefit. We've heard already from a few of the drivers. They're some of the best here today, Arjuna, were those who have had previous experience and a lot of it to know what to handle for the rain, and that's where we've seen some of the big advantages pop up today with Olivier Piatek today. For the rest of the field, for some of them at least, compared to the Jamie Fluke, who didn't have as much practice and mixed up the days, we've seen those big differences in prep can even catch the best of the best off guard with the race like this.
Yes, I bet you that if Jamie Fluke had a bit more preparation, he probably wouldn't have made some of the mistakes that we did see from him. A driver that has seen success at the very top of the sim racing world. The strength of field that I saw earlier, when you mix in the likes of the Jamie Flukes with the rest of the field, did see it strike at about 5,500 or so, but I might be wrong on that. 22 minutes left to run then for this penultimate special event of the year. A reminder to join us at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific tonight for coverage of the iRacing Chili Bowl Nationals. It should be a blast in the Super Session. The top drivers from the week who have competed Monday through Friday get a chance to be featured to close out the week, and it is always an amazing showcase of Dirt Oval at its best. Inside, a very small track as well, lap times shy of 10 seconds, and some great speed and skill on showcase, to say the least. Arjuna Kenkipati alongside of Justin Prince as we head into the end of 2025. And JP, we've talked about special event calendar for next year, but it's quite remarkable to think about the fact that we'll get effectively 2 weekends off, and then we'll be back with the first of the many special events in 2026.
Be able to set that tone with a roar to begin off the year. Absolutely. I mean, holiday seasons are nice, but I like racing. I like being able to call races. Work is fun when it comes to motorsports.
True. To be fair, off-season is short. There's other sports where they have months in terms of an off-season to some degree or another. Really isn't too much of an off-season for racing, with the exception of the 2 weeks, Christmas and New Year's. Not much racing happens then. Real world racing picks up the week after that, though, because there's the Dubai 12 hours, the Abu Dhabi 24 as well. This is what we were talking about earlier with the forecast. Look at how the nature of the rain shifts on the forecast, JP. It's just so difficult to try and judge in real time.
And all those patterns just keep changing. You see, for example, for those up the top, and you zoom mightily in, this is where that black square is. This is the racetrack. That's how small it is compared to the overall mapping on the circuit. You can see some parts of the racetrack are getting the medium rain right now. vast majority getting light rain, so you're going to have different impact rates across the circuits, not just a static, everybody gets 13 meters of rain right this second. You have that adaptability from one end of the track to the other, where there's going to be a lot more to fare out. As Impulse is off again, another mistake for the BMW M2 leader.
But Team Chimera not close enough to take advantage. Where is Simon Trendell as they climb up out of Hogpen onto the pit straightaway? Still a wiggle from Pascal Costa as he works down towards the start-finish stripe. And the margin stabilizes at just around 1.2 seconds. Well, one more mistake and Chimera will be back in front. 19 minutes to go. 10 minutes before we think that heavy cell of rain is going to be back on top of the track. Anyone's game at the front of the M2 CS Racing class.
Again, I think it's going to come down to whoever gets a penalty or whoever makes a mistake in the later stages. Team Chimera just continue to have snappity snap on these tires right now. Costa has been that same case where he's been more rapid on speed, but another near 1x, possibly a hit to the grass for Costa. Here comes Team Chimera on the boost.
And going back to the 1x's, how close are these drivers to racking up another drive-through penalty? I'd be concerned if I'm Impulse Racing. Trendell closing up through the S's for the 69th time in this race. Bit of a wiggle from Trendell. This is where he lost the lead a couple of laps ago. And very slow, tiptoeing out through South Bend. Just about 80 miles an hour now as they head in towards the Oak Tree corner. Lead all the way down to closer to 45 miles an hour before they put the power down and squeeze onto the right foot. Remember, we'll see BMW M2 CS Racing machines around VIR later on in 2026 for the very first time in reality, albeit not around this wild infield section, which we'll pitch into now. On board with Trendell as they head out at turn 13, the corner with a name that shall not be named. Car pulls out of the way in front of them, in through the spiral. Elevation change, such a big part of this infield section.
Right now for Trendell, you can see though, narrow snap, pushed him right into the puddles. Just continues to struggle up out of spiral. It continues to cost him ground. That's going to reset the gap again by an extra few tenths of a second. Those snaps continue to just cost Trendell in the worst possible way whenever he keeps close to Costa.
I mean, they both made their fair share of mistakes. The question is, will they make a mistake that is more impactful than others, because there is less time to respond as the seconds continue to tick away. The final time slot, by the way, for the production car challenge kicks off in about 7 hours time. If you're watching this and thinking you want to take it on, you're a braver soul than I am, as once more we look at that weather. On board with Deidre Alessandrini in the Lizard's Brain Podcast 13. Now this is the hunt for a podium spot. They were gifted this opportunity after Project GRS had their technical issue. Cinders, Pyro Pups and Kevin Bellens in third. Alessandrini on the hunt.
Alessandrini, good in this type of racing for years now with the platform, has connections with grid light competition for a long time. It's going to be someone that we know can be able to craft his way around for passes, likes to be able to find his way around swiftly. Bellens right now, you can tell, just be careful. Alessandrini using experience well to be able to pick up the spots as they all try to avoid that massive dip area around the inside curbing here. Forced to run a lot over the middle, swerve around and find groove after groove to be able to make sure the grip stays upright. As look at the difference in racing line.
Back up to 1.5 seconds at the front of the M2 class. Big slides as they slink up towards the roller coaster. 15 minutes left to go in the penultimate special event of the year. Just the Chili Bowl to come after this, as the team at iRacing, after delivering a whole suite of updates to the system and tracks and cars a couple of weeks ago, look forward to what will hopefully be another big year in 2026. Already announced, JP, that on January the 5th, iRacing will be releasing a new tire model for the GTP cars, just in time for the iRacing Daytona 24. Never a chance to breathe for the team at iRacing.
And for what I've heard from talking with a couple of fellow broadcasters, a lot of people looking forward to it, to say the very least, to be able to help out on the tire model side, to be able to help keep that car gripped up, but also be able to help it keep adapting for its competitors, especially with that unique tire carcass that was shown in the iRacing screenshots with the patterns that pop up on it. I think it's a much needed upgrade for the tires coming up for the GTP.
It's something that we'll see at Daytona for the first time in the real world. Expecting the tire to be a bit better in the warm-up phase in the real world Rolex 24. Specifically important, of course, when it comes to the cold tire temperatures during the night and ensuring that you don't find yourself slipping up. Of course, the visual tread pattern, referred to as vision tread,
Yes.
kind of just is meant to help those that don't often think about tires, which to be fair is 99% of the non-racing world, but designed to try and help them understand what a tire does underneath and some of the construction and all of that. So it's not something that's going to last for more than 3 or 4 laps is what I've been told, but definitely an interesting change to prototype tires being used both in IMSA and in WEC in 2026. A couple of drivers having issues. Nick Jarny, Thie Simone, quick drivers, but both having had misfortune today. Really the only fight in these closing stages is this one on our screens right now, because Simon Trendell is now 3 seconds off of the race lead, JP. Still waiting for the heavy band of rain, but Pascal Costa, as long as he avoids a mistake, looks like he's got the speed.
Don't bring the commentator's curse now, but I think for, oh my goodness, hold on 1 second. Allison Drini getting squeezed down. Morris not getting the give and take that we've seen Bellens get in this fight, and this is absolutely demolished this battle on track. Allison Drini having to wait now likely until out of roller coaster, if not the front straightaway. And there's the contact. Seen that coming.
Yeah, that was inevitable. Allison Drini, all the hopes now gone of a podium, and it will be Cinder's Pyro Pups to try and hold on for the final 11 minutes of the race. Speaking of, where is the race leader? Olivier Piatek is currently working his way through turn 17 as we keep an eye on the next heavy burst of rain expected over the track. He will cross the line then with just about 10.5 minutes, I think, left to go. Lap times at around 3 minutes and 13 seconds. So 4 laps, I would say, JP, left to run.
Yeah, just an estimated maybe 4 laps coming up here at the stripe. Not too much time to work with. You're running out of opportunities to be able to make passes here, quite simply. If you want a chance to go for the spot, you have to go for it now. And for many of these drivers, it's avoiding the pattern that some have noticed of pass a Clio, spin, pass a Clio, spin, or pass another car, spin, pass another car, spin. You do that now, you lose a spot, if not a couple. You cannot afford to press the repeat button. You have to press the shuffle button on your pattern.
Yeah, no, I am wondering if it's actually 3 laps left to go based on the rain that might be incoming, but we will wait to see. All we know is if that rain does arrive, there is a fight that could arise for 4th in GR86. The lead in M2 could be back on. Everything else is splintered up a little bit too much, you would think. Of the 58 starters, we are officially now down to 38, still left and running. And oh, speak of trouble, what's just happened to Pascal Costa? Team Chimera back in front with 10 minutes to go.
Told you not to jinx it. Seen that coming. Just lost it again. Just trying to lock it down. Had to loop it in a full circle. And there is the opportunity Trendell was looking for. Costa is going to have to go into full-on push mode if he wants any chance left here. I don't know if he can close up 4.6 seconds. He's closed 3 seconds in 10 minutes before. But 4.7 is going to require Trendell to really struggle. Let's look at the Clios.
This is Project 91 by iRacing and Devotion Sim Racing 93, squabbling up to the horseshoe as short time remains in this race. Into a single file line, trying to avoid the big puddle on the outside of the entry. I think Olivier Piatek has the option here to slow his pace down and ensure there is just 3 laps remaining. Look at the heavyish band of rain, which has now covered one end of the track. Oh, in front of Michael Meyer, Raul Hernando goes off. The back half of the track, though, yet to be covered by the heavier band of rain. Drivers on their tiptoes trying to stay in control.
And at this point, you have to make sure, careful, because that heavy rain band you were talking about with the radar, it is here. It is over a majority of the racetrack, so this is the exact...
JP, it is over for the M2 lead because Impulse Racing by TAM Livery have got to drive through another incident for them at the South Bend.
Was about to say, multiple off tracks are stacked up. Impulse absolutely did it on their own again. Had 3 straight 1 or 2Xs. This is a 2X. This is enough to cook it. Impulse had a chance to win it. They've just had a Team Chimera, their first big win in a long, long time.
I can't even remember the last time it was Team Chimera that were on top in an iRacing special event. It will be a taste that they will enjoy. Meanwhile, that fight for 4th is on in GR86. Lizard's Brain and DJ Alessandrini suddenly looking in the rearview mirror because here comes Jamie Nuttall in that Crack D Racing 31. Difficult start to the race for the 31, but hoping to end on top.
And remember, Alessandrini already in the first place is part of this fight because of the aggression he put on himself here. Nuttall has a great chance to zip on by if he's able to just find the right spot here. Alessandrini again having to pass the same MX-5. This has been a bugaboo for him. Still can't make the move.
And the slight blinking there, not going to keep anyone's nerves down below the surface. That doesn't help things by any means, but they'll slip through without too much drama. Olivier Piatek once more crossed the line and could indeed be on the penultimate lap of the race. Meanwhile, at the South Bend, half-hearted look up the inside from Jamie Nuttall, who will be quite aware of wanting to make this move stick in a safe and reasonable manner. Gifted a chance as drifting wide goes Alessandrini. But a drag race down to turn 13. Nuttall not with a great exit, and now shoved to the outside.
Side by side, have to find a way around cleanly. Alessandrini now dealing with the car with technical issues, going to add concerns for this fight. Alessandrini, though, still keeps it alongside. Contact, and there's the elbows coming out.
Basically left him half a car's width and left him the option of driving himself off the track. I don't know if Jamie Nuttall's going to be thrilled about that, especially because he's now got a black flag, and that's going to, unfortunately, rob him of a chance of trying to fight back in the closing stages here. And so, with 5 minutes left on our clock, Olivier Piatek has managed to deal with all the changes thrown his way in terms of weather and all sorts of madness through the traffic. But could he be ready to see the white flag next time by, as We are into the final stages of this production car challenge at VIR. Piatek is currently still working his way through the infield. 4.5 minutes left to go on the race clock. Now, it's all down to iRacing effectively, JP, based on how fast they've calculated teams to be going through the course of this race if we are headed onto the final lap. But I think everyone still running is going to be hoping that this signals the final 4 miles around the Virginia International Raceway.
Keep an eye on the flag stand here for Olivier. He's made his way through. Don't see any signals yet as they work their way up the front. Straight away, 350 on the clock. I think we'll still keep going. Don't see anything flying up from Barney. Just have to keep it steady. And Olivier, now we'll see the last lap trigger. Now it does pop up here for the final lap. That wasn't interesting in the timing.
That was what I was wondering. What will happen? Sometimes we are as left in the dark as you are as well. So this is marked as the final lap. Is there going to be more? What a day it's been, though. And again, to see the checkered flag is a victory in and of itself. Now, a lot of people will say there's only 4 winners in this top split, but surviving the madness and coming out on top, I think, is to be commended. Again, remember, JP, a lot of these drivers did not realize that the rain was going to be so heavy, and a lot of them may not have done much practice in these sort of conditions. And so again, the level of attrition that we have seen so far today, I think, is to be expected.
And it really tested the best here today in terms of how well you're able to drive in the wet. That constantly flips around. The first major race since the iRacing build for some of these drivers and teams. It kept everybody on their toes today, Arjuna. And in the end, put down some stellar racing. But in the end as well, if you wanted to get the checker flag today, you had to be the strongest overall. Olivier was one of the strongest by far.
It's all the perks of the fan club, allegedly. Drive-through penalty on the final lap for Nick Johnny, which means that he will stay in second place. It just goes to grow the margin up to Piatek, who, for someone who does his fair share of karting in the real world, Spec MX-5 racing as well, balancing the budgets, of course, required to do that. You know, it's maybe not a surprise that he was one of the drivers that was able to rise to the challenge, JP, and adapt. He did say that the hundreds of laps that he did at VIR for the IMSA Esports Global Championship stood him in good stead. That's a very different car. GT3 versus GR86.
But remember, he's also ran a fair bit in this car, ran in the esports title with the GR86s. I think that also part of that crossover that's seen him propel to the top today.
And what a day it has been. My clock is still indicating, by the way, a full 60 seconds left to go. So as Olivier Piatek dives out of the roller coaster and in towards Hogpen, could very well still be 1 lap left to go. But if not, my goodness, what a display. 4 hours solo, and while not trouble-free, drama-free for the most part. Is that the white flag waving? I think it is.
Yeah, well, I didn't see Barney throw it previously. Was checking a couple times. This now will be that final lap trigger for Olivier. Smooth sailing from here on out over the next minute or so. Smooth sailing for the rest of the classes.
It's not the first time we've had some issues with that lap detection not always triggering correctly, so we apologize. A couple of drivers are off the track right now, including Jaden Conright in that BS Plus hybrid. I saw Gilles LeBlanc having an issue as well. I think he was pushing to try and close up to Jamie Nuttall to grab 5th in the GR86 class. While Piatek still working his way up towards the S's and looking to stay out of trouble. JP, let's also talk about Scorpio Esports, because Charlie Devlin, poor guy, have not talked much about him at all. He's had multiple crashes, multiple pit stops, but through all of that has been the consistent race leader and is one lap away from a victory in the class.
Stellar day, and I know he's had his supporters watching along here today. One of the Scotsmen who's been able to withstand the weather, kind of showcasing that ability and some of that test experience that's crossed over today into the sim to be able to put together a performance like this. It's been impressive for the 44 to put up a gap of nearly a full lap at the very end, all on a raw speed while working on his own here.
Apparently Olivier made a comment in the Discord voice chat, by the way, at some point that he would pull it to pit lane on the final lap of the race. I think that goes to show just how tired he and some of these other drivers are. I think Isaac Phelps has had to take a tow back to pit lane on the final lap of the race. It has been a drama-filled day, to say the very least. Checkered flag displayed on screen, but our leader still has got half a lap left to go before he can finally make things official. Pascal Costas had yet another slip-up as well. Oh goodness, it's not been an easy finish to the race for them. Everyone's taking off to the grass as well.
This is a little bit of a roller coaster to end off this one, but for the Arjuna Kankapati fan club, it's only a few more corners to survive here to be able to close out the day.
Wow, what a day indeed. And the Arjuna Kankapati fan club, one sterling effort from Olivier Piatek. Yes, a couple of slip-ups, including one for style points at the end of the race. But ultimately, through the adversity, through the tribulations of the weather, only one able to rise above. And it will be Olivier Piatek, once he digs himself out of the grass down at Hog Pen, that rises in the production car challenge at ViR to grab the win, not just in the GR86s, but overall as well. A full lap clear of the entirety of his competitors, and that includes the faster BMW M2 CS Racing class as well. That will be won by Simon Trendell, Team Chimera, a stalwart of sim racing for so many years, and JP back on top, albeit after a topsy-turvy ride that Trendell was able to endure.
It was a roller coaster. Trendell lost his front clip at one point, has been trying to survive since then. Trendell just needs to make sure there's no more push-offs for Team Chimera. It's been so long since they've been able to take a checker flag. How about that? One of its team stalwarts returns to victory lane.
Wow, what an effort. Simon Trendell, another one of our solo entrants into the race as well. 4 hours later, he is able to stand on top. Impulse Racing will win in the Clio Cup class, but it will take a while for them to get to the line. They are yet to jink through turn 13 onto the infield, and so let's celebrate Scorpio Esports and Charlie Devlin having to dig himself out of the gravel on multiple occasions. But through adversity, through all of that, rising at the top, and it will be a 3-minute margin of victory. Charlie Devlin and all the fans in chat go wild at ViR.
Dominating effort for the 44 machine. Miguel Freitas, though, also a dominant day in the Clio. What a day at the very end. Impulse does get one of the 2 wins coming up here. They just have to be able to step their way forward with almost a full lap advantage.
Here comes Freitas. Started down in 4th position, got tangled up in some of the early drama as well, but if not for the incident with Devotion Sim Racing Jr., I think we could have had a really fun fight with Dylan DaCosta as well, JP. I don't want to take away from Miguel's effort, but Dylan was maybe one of the few drivers that looks like he could challenge.
Now, it was until we hit that Armco barrier and had to drive through penalties. Everything just stacked up over the course of this race, but for Impulse, one of the better teams when it comes to touring cars and front-wheel drive machines out to the final corner here.
My word. Don't think we're seeing more than 36 cars cross the line, but Miguel Freitas, after a stalwart effort in that 999, crosses the line to make it, by my reckoning, all 4 of our winners who did this race by themselves. A long 4 hours for the Arjuna Kankipati fan club and for Olivier Piatek. One lap clear of everybody, including JFR Esports, Cinder's Pyro Pups, Lizard's Brain Podcast. We'll scroll through these results and go up and down through those at the front, because we really also want to grab a quick word with some of the rest of our contenders. Remember, GR86 crosses the line first, although it's BMW M2 CS Racing that technically is the fastest. Simon Trendell 50 seconds clear of Pascal Costa. Impulse Racing by Tam Livery brewing a couple more mistakes than they could have asked for. NGC in third, BS Plus Hybrid grabbed fourth. What a race it was for those that stuck around. Unfortunately, not all seeing the very end. Impulse Racing 1 lap clear of TSRC, in turn 1 lap clear of GTRS, the Racing Spirit, and a whole handful of DNFs from 9th on back, regrettably, in the class. Miguel Freitas at the front, able to drive away and stay out of trouble when it really mattered. And then in the MX-5s, Devlin for Scorpio, Lendoroso for Byte, and then Team Racing Purple and Enosis Esports Sim Deck within a couple of laps of the leaders. I think Olivier Piatek's gone to have a quick sleep, and I don't blame him for that one either. So let's quickly grab a chat with Jeremy Fletcher, part of the JFR Esports crew that finished second. Jeremy, I know you've done your fair share of racing virtually and in the sim as well. That opening stint must have been one of the wildest you've had to ever do.
Yeah, it was definitely chaotic with the rain there, and just trying to, stay with all EP and push away, and then hopefully race it out at the end. But I think I sold the bag a couple times for sure.
And Nick, from your perspective, the end of that race with the rain coming in and out, we were a bit unsure as to how things were working through. How aware do you need to be as a driver as to how that forecast is shifting around?
I would say it plays a big factor for sure, especially because we thought it was only going to be wet for quali, and then maybe towards the end of the race, so we were keeping an eye on the forecast the whole time. And honestly, we were hoping for maybe a little bit of like a gamble strategy later in the race if it dried up, but it just stayed wet the whole time, and it was pretty difficult to say the least.
Yeah, we both sucked.
Well, congrats on surviving and grabbing P2, and hopefully we'll see you more in 2026.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Let's also grab a quick word with Olivier Piatek. Olivier, quickly, how drained are you after that one?
I'm fully tired. Like, waking up in the morning and getting right into a 4-hour race was so difficult, and I wasn't expecting to do a 4-hour race, so I wasn't ready for it. Didn't have any water with me or anything, so it was really difficult, but it was really fun as well at the same time.
Did you get your water in the end?
Just now, finally. That's why it took so long to get in the interview waiting room. Had to go get some.
Well, we'll let you go and relax and celebrate, Olivier. Been a great 2025 for you. Can't wait to see what you're up to in 2026. And JP, before we wrap things up, a quick look at our special event calendar. What a year it has been. And one final blast, 9 p.m. tonight. Join the iRacing Esports Network. Josh Lee leading our coverage of the Chili Bowl. What a 2025, and a chance for us to catch our breaths and do it all over again.
It's been a wonderful 2025, but it's still going to be the matter of which drivers are able to withstand the chaos of the Chili Bowl. Most of the special event calendar, it's been a busy time. Again, now to clock that start time. It's going to be a fun time to see how the battles fare out with those quick races to see who wins that top split tonight.
And that's all to come for Justin Prince alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, our producer Hugo Luis. It's time to bid you farewell. A quiet end to 2025 on the iRacing Esports Network, but we will see you next year with plenty more action to come in the iRacing special events.